Good evening, everyone. Welcome to our combined committee of Pembroke City Council for August 12th. In the absence of Mayor Gervais and myself, who I'm attending virtually, a chair for the August 12th combined committee has to be appointed. I'm recommending that Councillor Jacquino serve as chair for this evening's combined committee. I would like to make that motion if I have a seconder. Seconded by?
Councillor Purcell.
Oh, sorry.
Okay. Any discussion? Those in favor? So we'll have Councillor Jacquino will kindly take the chair. Thank you very much.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the combined committee meetings of Tuesday, August 12, 2025, here in Pembroke Council Chambers. The land acknowledgement. As we gather today, I would respectfully acknowledge on behalf of Council and the community that the City of Pembroke resides on the unceded traditional territory of the Algonquin people. We thank the generations of people who have taken care of this land for thousands of years. It is with this statement that we honor and respect the Algonquins on whose land we reside. I'll call this meeting officially to order. Are there any disclosures of pecuniary interest or general nature thereof? Seeing none, we'll proceed. The approval and amendment of the meeting agenda, approved by Councillor Lafreniere, seconded by Councillor Purcell. Errors or omissions, additions? Seeing none, those in favor? Against? Carried. Thank you. The approval of the minutes of the combined committee of July 15th, 2025, having been circulated and read. Are there any errors or omissions? If not, I need a mover. Moved by Councillor Purcell, seconded by Councillor Fernier. Those in favor? Carried. Thank you. Any business arising from the minutes? Seeing none. This evening, under presentations and delegations, I shall be very pleased to introduce our guests, Read the Nature Foundation and FCM, Kristen Nemi, Director of Education, Renfrew County District School Board, Jamie Thompson, Director of Development, Pre-Nature Foundation, are attending virtually. Welcome. With Scott Nickel, Superintendent of Education, and Bill Murray, Manager of Facilities, attending in person. Please come forward for your presentation. Welcome to the Council of the City of Pembroke. Thank you, sir. You're welcome.
Thank you very much to the City of Pembroke for giving us this time this evening to present to you. I am disappointed that I'm not there in person presenting to you. It just happened that with the timelines of the project we'd like to speak to you about, we needed to present to you today, and I'm in Toronto for the summer Directors of Education meeting that happens provincially. And so I am here for work. Wish I was there presenting to you in person, but we do have Scott and Bill with you in person, and Jamie from Renature as well, who has the technical expertise once we get into the weeds around the grant application with FCM. And so just again, wanted to thank you for this opportunity, and also thank you for the opportunity that you gave to us in the spring, where we did come and present to you about the Renfrew County District School Board and all of the great things that are happening in our schools. And we also put a little plug in for the consultations that were happening for the development of our new strategic plan. And we are on track with the completion of that and approval at our December board meeting and launch of it in January of 2026. And so thanks again for having us this evening. And tonight we're here to speak to you specifically about one particular opportunity that requires your support. So at this time, I am going to turn it over to Scott, who's going to kick us off.
Thank you, Kristen. Okay, that sounds a lot better. Good evening, everyone. So again, just looking at this overview here, I guess the first thing that I'd like to say as a remark is that the overall focus and goal of education is for students to succeed. And in terms of being able to do that, whether, as Director Nimi referred to, in terms of the strategic plan that we're trying to develop for the 26 to 2030 school years, or through budget consultations that happen on an annual basis, what we're really asking is, where do we need to prioritize our resources and our focus for students' success? And the ongoing two components that continue to come up in terms of the precursors for student success from a variety of stakeholders is student engagement and well-being. And in terms of that, and we know with student success, we know that depending on the age, depending on their pathways, success may look different. And in terms of engagement, though, a number of the things that we look at are in terms of, can the students actually see themselves in their learning? Do they see relevance in the learning? Do they have chances to make sense of the world around them? Do they have a voice in their learning? And do they have access to supports and strategies to support them to be able to thrive? As mentioned on the slide as well, we made a number of significant investments, whether we're talking about staffing or professional development. The focus would be on student engagement and well-being, and that's been done over the last number of years in terms of roles and responsibilities or the content of the professional development. The other thing I'd like to highlight from this particular slide is our commitment to inquiry-based learning. And in particular with that, we know that inquiry-based learning is a key mechanism for student engagement. And those questions that those reflective questions that I just mentioned really lend itself well to the inquiry-based learning. In addition, environmental education, outdoor learning, pardon the pun, but they naturally fit with that type of inquiry-based learning and those questions that go along with it. And so with that, we know that in addition to that, so not only have we made a significant investment in terms of making sure that we're committed to inquiry-based learning as well as environmental education, outdoor learning, but we're also committed to the partnerships that exist within our community and outside of our community to help with environmental education, outdoor education as well, whether it's through Shaw Woods. In fact, just recently, our environmental committee has now partnered even stronger with another group called Eco Schools. But of course, at this point, though, we'd like to speak about the Renature Foundation and our partnership that we hope to explore with that. So, Director Nimi, can I turn it back to you?
Absolutely. Thanks, Scott.
Yep.
And so although Jamie is here, I'm going to speak sort of a little bit on behalf of the Renature Foundation. So who is Renature? They are a nonprofit organization that creates regenerative landscapes for schools, and which we know the research is clear. The more time people spend outside, we see an improvement in their mental health and well-being. And also this also allows for environmental education to address, we can see we are having changes in our climate. And it also addresses issues related to educational equity, providing equitable access to opportunities for all children in our communities. So Renature's goal is very clear. Their vision is that they want every single school in Canada to have its own forest and outdoor learning space where students can learn. And they want every educator to have what they need to be able to use those spaces. And so they have 4 guiding principles. And essentially the four pieces of the puzzle are there in bold, but the vision is that educators will take their children outside if there is a forest, which we might call an outdoor learning space as well, and then a classroom. Those two kind of make up that outdoor learning space, a mentor to lean on, and a curriculum to teach. And Renature is working with school boards to provide all 4 components to make outdoor learning effective for students and staff. And at this time, I'm going to turn it over to Bill to talk about this specific project.
Thank you very much, Director Nimi. So what we're proposing to do is to install outdoor learning spaces at 19 of our elementary schools. And what this opportunity will provide is that we'll be able to leverage the partnership with our municipal partners as well as Renature to take a relatively small amount of money and end up with a really good result, so that we have access to capital funds for improvements at our sites. And with the grants that are available, we'll be able to create these outdoor learning spaces. And when Director Nimi talks about the benefits of being outside, and I think we all understand that intrinsically, but there is excellent data about how blood pressure lowers, how behaviors are reduced at schools where there are outdoor learning programs. It's an incredible opportunity, and we live in nature and in the most beautiful spot in the province. And through this partnership, we'll be able to ensure that all students have access to those opportunities. And one of the things that I find unique in this process is that through Renature, the support that comes to educators to implement that curriculum, that we're not just creating a space with logs on the ground and some stump seats and in trees. It's the support so that teachers are trained how to best use those spaces to benefit students. And the benefits of experiential and inquiry-based learning where students are actively involved in creating the learning opportunities. Like there's no better way to get student engagement other than to include them in the process. And having a shady spot on a June day, it will be a great opportunity. So we need buy-in from our municipal partners to allow for the grants to be applied for. And here's a sample design, and it includes all the elements of a traditional 800 square foot classroom that we find all over the county, but it's outside. There's your teacher focused space where more traditional instruction can happen, and then the opportunities for small groups to do inquiry-based activities, at having seating areas and areas to read and experience. It's these will be gems that I think there are only a couple other school boards in the country that are engaged in these opportunities right now. It'd be wonderful if we had those opportunities in Renfrew County. And so this would allow for a full classroom of students to be engaged in the outdoors and take and see the benefits of that opportunity. Thank you.
Thanks, Bill. So I'm going to spend a few minutes talking about the role of Renature with this project, the role of the school board, and then your role as a municipality. And so in terms of Renature, the Renature Foundation's role, really, they are doing the legwork in the background to pull all of this together. They are supporting our school board with streamlining and completing multiple grant applications. They are assisting in stakeholder coordination. I know Jamie was on the phone over the last, through email and phone, communicating with a variety of CAOs for the municipalities across Renfrew County. And also, Renature will take on the project management if we are successful in getting the required grants to make this project move forward. So they are the brains behind the operation, to be quite honest, and taking care of all these details. But they will work alongside us. So in terms of Renfrew County District School Board's role, really, we are partners with Renature right now, looking to expand outdoor learning and environmental education across the county. But also our role as a school board, we have an ongoing partnership with our municipalities in different ways. And that's why we're here to speak to you about how we need your support to access a specific grant. Also, Renfrew County District School Board is committing to covering a portion of this the cost of this project. So, whatever the grants don't cover, then our CDSB will be paying the balance. And finally, as Scott and Bill have both alluded to, it's not just about, building a space. It's also about promoting outdoor learning in a sustainable way and maintaining the spaces and providing that support to both students and staff so that the spaces are used with an intentional purpose that focuses on student learning and well-being. And so here's the slide. This is like the peak of the presentation, because the question is, why are we in front of you? Well, there is a specific grant that we would like to apply for that was intended for municipalities. And so if you've read the package, you've probably seen this. This particular grant, Canada's Community Canopies program, so Growing Canada's Community Canopies, GCC program through the Federation of Canadian Municipalities, FCM. So essentially, every municipality has access to $10 million over the lifetime of the grant. But here's the catch. It's a 50% match program. So whatever you apply for, you have to be able to match. And what FCM has communicated to Renature is that their bottom line is, budgets are tight and municipalities are having a challenge in terms of accessing $10 million because you would have to match that. And so we are here to ask for your support to be able to apply for a very small percentage of the grant that you have access to. And what we are looking at and requesting of you is your support to apply for $50,000 per school site. And so for the city of Pembroke, we have 2 schools in the city. So we have Highview Public School and we have Champlain Discovery School. And so what we are asking for is for your support to apply for a total of $100,000 of the grant out of $10 million that you have access to over the lifetime of the grant. And so we would be matching that. As the school board, we would match that with additional grants and or our own capital funds. So I put it in bold here. There is absolutely no cost to the city of Pembroke with this project. We're here because one of the grants that we would like to apply for is intended for municipalities. And we would like to request your support to be able to access up to, in this case, $100,000 for the 2 schools that are in Pembroke through this grant application. So in summary, Renfrew County District School Board has partnered with the Renature Foundation, which is a charitable organization with the goal of consolidating grants and putting in our own capital funding to design and install outdoor learning spaces in our 19 elementary schools that are in Renfrew County. And we are here because we need your support to be able to apply for that GCCC program through FCM. And essentially, you would have seen in the package that we provided a sample letter of intent. And so in terms of next steps, we would need, at a minimum, a letter of intent by the end of August because we need to submit all of our applications by mid-September. And then shortly afterwards, we would need a copy of the resolution that you've passed, that you support this, because the FCM will not approve these grants until they receive confirmation through a resolution of your support. Scott, could you go to the next slide? Just want to make sure I covered all of our next steps. Yes, and so if we are successful in obtaining these grants among some other grants to support this project, then our plan is to design and build these spaces next summer and have them done before the snow flies in the fall of 2026. And so at this time, I'm just going to check in with Jamie to see if he would like to elaborate on any of the points that I made.
Thanks, Kristen. Yeah, I think I would just simply say that this FCM grant program is an amazing program for smaller municipalities. Generally, these programs that we've seen in the past tend to get eaten up by the bigger cities. Toronto and the capital region and Vancouver and Montreal will pick up almost all of the funding. And so the nice thing about this, working with this FCM program through the Green Municipal Fund, is that everybody gets a chance at it. But they've made it a little more complex because of the matching. So we've recognized that when we're trying to further our own aims, which is to get kids outside a little more, this is a great opportunity to partner with some other national funders, including the school board, of course, but we're also looking elsewhere as well to try and match even more of that so that we can essentially get these things built. And we're working right now, the last couple of days, on a construction plan. We actually intend to get started on these projects in the early spring so that they will be in place in the summer. We've done this kind of work before. I should mention that our role as a general contractor is closely related to both local contractors that we'll work with, and also we have a design firm, Bean and Stock Natural Playgrounds, who have designed and built 4,500 of these sites in the States and another 450 in Canada. They're a Canadian company with a US wing. It just turns out there's been a little more motion there. But we are very experienced in doing this. And I just wanted to mention very quickly about the 4 pillars. In the experience of the designers, what happened over the last 20 years, including the pivot during the pandemic to outdoor classrooms for a while, was that they recognized that sites that are built for school boards tend to get used when there's full community support. That means buy-in from the staff, buy-in from facilities, and from the kids and the community themselves, so that what happens is that the area grows and thrives with the students. One other thing I want to mention is, well, actually 2 other things. You will see on the design there's a little path in there so that those students who are less able to move through the space are able to get to the main spaces without difficulty. And the other thing I would mention is that our sites are going to be designed and built with locally grown trees, and we expect to put in 50 large trees. And one of the things that I think is important to mention is that sight lines are preserved. My own children, the reason I'm involved with Renature is that my own children went to a school just in my own neighborhood, which has a similar designed play space and learning area. And sight lines are preserved. The staff are able to see the kids just as well as they could when there was no canopy. It's just now the kids have some shade. And if we all go back to June this year, and probably September, it can get really uncomfortable. And while those kids in many schools just had to go home, the kids in the schools that we're working with can just go outside, and in these spaces you can have many more than one classroom. You can actually end up having 3 or 4 classrooms using the same space. There's enough to go around. Thank you.
Thanks, Jamie. And so again, we just really appreciate the opportunity to speak with you about this opportunity for Renfrew County District School Board. And at this time, if you have any questions, we're happy to answer those. Thanks.
Questions of council? Councillor Fernier?
Not really a question, just I think this is fantastic. I mean, any opportunity to get kids outside. I mean, I'm not a kid, but during my working career, I often looked out the window and wished I could work from the picnic table out in the yard, you know? I mean, I know I have 4 grandchildren and they love to be outside, so kudos, and I definitely will support the letter of intent being drafted. And then a resolution. I believe we don't meet though until September, so that would have to wait. But I imagine you only need the letter of intent before the end of August. Am I correct? Okay, I see you nodding, so that's great. 100% support. I wish that all the schools could do this. And good luck with your project.
Councillor Lafreniere, we all know you're a kid at heart.
I am. I like to play outside still too.
Any other, Councillor Purcell?
Yes, just I get another comment. Thank you for bringing it up in terms of the accessibility component, in terms of the outdoor space, to make sure it's available to everyone to utilize. I do think that's a fantastic idea. You know, I go back to the years that I was in school. You know, it was just kind of like, you know, walk to the gravel parking lot, and you know, we'd sit in the gravel parking lot and we'd have maybe a story or you know, some sort of learning opportunity. So I think this is awesome. I think this is really fantastic, and I think it's going to provide some really positive outcomes for some children that would benefit from this type of setting. When you talk about mental health is on the decline for many years in regards to our youth. And one only has to just look at, you know, some of the service providers that we have here within the city of Pembroke, and the youth hub is one of them, right? In terms of that, are addressing these types of issues and working with children, and you know, trying to keep them engaged and making sure that you know, that there's some positive outcomes. So anything that we can do to support, I think that was it's fantastic, and even better that we don't have to spend any of our tax dollars to support it as well. So thank you so much. Appreciate that.
Deputy Mayor, I know you're sitting in an outdoor garden you're supporting the project, obviously, right from the start. Did you have a comment, Deputy Mayor?
Yes, yeah. Well, I have the pleasure of teaching at Pineview Public School, and it's called Pineview for a reason, because there's a bunch of pine trees there. and they've already created an outdoor learning space that is readily used. And you touched on many things there, but one of them is the behavior issues of the children. Like talk about positivity when they're learning outside and they're engaged, and especially when you combine it with nature and science learning and physical education. So it's a great opportunity, and we already have it at our school, but Highview and Champlain Discovery do not have that, and I fully support the program, and thank you for coming forward. And the Federation of Canadian Municipalities is a great organization, so we're thankful to them too. Thank you.
I'd like to thank Director Nemi and the presenters for coming. Very powerful program. A visionary is a person who plants a tree and knows that they'll never have the opportunity to sit in the shade of that tree. And I think that's what you're trying to propose, that people understand how valuable nature is to us and what gifts it gives to us. And I'm sure that I can't speak for all of council, but I'm sure that they will be technically in support of your program. Is there anything else you'd like to add? If not, thank you very much. Very informative. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a wonderful evening.
Thank you.
Thank you. Our next order of business, 7B, 2026 Water Systems Financial Plan Presentation. We welcome our Director of Operations and Nancy Neal. Welcome.
Good evening.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I think we'll move right into the presentation. Nancy is prepared for us. She's going to go through a number of slides and then provide an opportunity of council for any questions. Floor is yours, Nancy.
Thanks. I'm just sharing a screen here. Can you confirm that everyone can see it?
Yeah, we can see it, Nancy. Thanks.
Oh, that's great. Good evening. Thank you. I am going to take you through a brief presentation, just highlighting what is in the Water Financial Plan report that you have before you tonight and what needs to happen to ensure that it gets approval as required to help get your water license renewed. Just going to go through quickly the study purpose and the legislative requirements for you to fully understand that. The requirements for the municipal drinking water license includes more than the financial plan. I'll highlight what those other components are that you need to deal with, as well as try and give you a bit of an explanation as to the differences of what you would see in a water wastewater rate study or financial budget versus the financial plan, because the financial plan really does become an accounting type documentation. So I'll explain some of those differences and what they mean for you, as well as provide an overview of some of the financial indicators that are included in the water financial plan and the recommendations that need to move forward. There's questions we can talk about at the end. As you know, we have been retained to undertake the water financial plan. We are also working with staff to undertake a fulsome water and wastewater rate study, but that will come later this year when additional information is available to be included in to that study. The financial plan, therefore, is based on your 2025 budget and forecast for capital and operating. And what we have shown is that the financial plan actually begins in 2026. So we are not using 25 data, but we're using the forecast data from 26 to 35 because your license actually expires in 2026. And the legislation requires the first year of the financial plan to therefore be starting in the year in which your license expires and will be renewed, which is 26 for your purpose. Over the past 20 years, There have been significant changes in the legislation for water and wastewater. The Safe Drinking Water Act in 2002 really established most of the rules and protocols surrounding how regulated entities provide water to its constituents. One of the requirements is that all municipalities or local service boards that are providing water service need to be licensed to operate the water system. This all came out of the Walkerton inquiry, for those that remember that years ago. So part of the licensing, as I mentioned, is to provide a financial plan to the province. This does have to be undertaken once every 5 years. In August 2007, the province filed Ontario Regulation 45307 and the guideline towards financial sustainable drinking water and wastewater systems. They really set out the key elements in the regulation that are required. There are, as I mentioned, 5 key elements that you require to get your municipal drinking water license renewed each 5 years. The plan that we have before you is to be completed and submitted as part of the application, which must take place at least 6 months prior to the expiry of your license. And as noted, we have to include that based on the year in which the license expires, and it must include at least 6 years worth of forecasted capital and operating data and cash flow data. We have included 10 years based on your forecast here, so you're exceeding more than the minimum requirements. The preparation of the financial plan is mandatory for water. It's encouraged for wastewater, but it's not required at this point, so we haven't undertaken it. As noted, there are 5 key components, of which the financial plan is one. The other components that you need to get your license is the Drinking Water Works Permit, the accepted operational plan based on the Drinking Water Quality Management Standard, the accreditation of the operating authority being yourselves, and the permit to take water. For any existing system to get your license renewed, the regulation really governs how that takes place. You do have to pass a resolution approving the financial plan, and that resolution has to accompany the financial plan when submitted for your license renewal. As mentioned, 6 years minimum has to be included. The types of statements that we have to include in there, again, more of an accounting-based document. Your statement of financial position really outlines your financial assets, liabilities, net debt, and non-financial assets. Your statement of operations is looking at revenues and expenses, surpluses, and accumulated surpluses over time. Your statement of cash flow is looking at your operating and capital, investing, and any financial transactions such as debt that is being utilized over the forecast period. And then we do need to include information related to the replacement of any lead service pipes that are within the system. Right now in your system, there are a few privately owned lead service pipes. When they are identified, the city notifies the property owner and provides them with a time frame in which the owners have to replace those to get them out of the system. The province does want to know that whenever they are identified, that there is something taking place to remove that and reduce the risks that lead pipes can provide to a water system. As noted, there are some requirements you need to follow. The financial plans, once approved, must be made available upon request without charge to anyone who wants it within your municipality. If you maintain a website with water and wastewater data, the financial plan should be made available on that site. And you do need to provide notice of the availability of the financial plan once it's been approved. So that people know that they can go and get the information, download it from the website, or request it directly from the municipality. And a copy of the financial plan must be submitted to the Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing. Additional on the information, as I mentioned, all of the financial assets, liabilities, net debt, and cash flow has to be taken into consideration. For municipalities that have 2 or more drinking water systems, you are allowed to combine and have just one financial plan for the multiple systems. And but if you ever put a new system in place, a separate financial plan is required to get that initial license in place. As I noted up front, there are some differences in what you would typically see in a rate study or your annual budget versus what you'll see in an accounting type document. For those who aren't accountants, it is a little confusing to try and compare the document. But really, when you're looking at your budget, it's considered on, you're doing it on a modified cash basis versus an accounting full accrual basis. And there are slight differences on how we handle certain aspects of expenditures and revenues. Capital requirements under your budget, it's part of your capital budget and forecast. You pay for your revenues with the, or your expenditures with the revenues that are available. On the financial plan side, they're considered tangible capital assets. And you may actually include in capital things such as a study, which doesn't actually translate into an actual asset. Those types of expenditures are reallocated or reapportioned and assigned as an operating expense in the financial plan, but they may still be funded through your capital budget over on your budget side of things. Previously acquired assets, obviously in your budget, you want to make sure that you are looking at future replacement values and building in your rates that cost that you'll actually incur to replace the assets when they come due for renewal. On the financial plan side of it, we look at historical costs, which of course you can't replace your assets at historical costs. But there's amortization expenses included, which really nets down that asset to the point of having no book value at the time it's ready for replacement. So a little bit different on how we handle assets and amortization. Amortization is not an expense on your budget side of what you would normally see. With debt, for any debt that is outstanding, of course, on your budget, you want to make sure that your rates are recovering enough to pay both principal and interest payments. But on a financial plan, interest is considered an expense, and the principal portion of the debt is considered a debt reduction. With reserve transfers, on your budget, transfer from your operating budget into a reserve is considered an operating expense. But on the financial plan, it becomes part of the accumulated surplus. And development charge reserve balances become a continuity schedule that you can fund capital out of over time as you collect those funds. On the financial plan side of things, it's considered deferred revenue. So we're really just taking what's in your budget and reclassifying it into an accounting type document. Some of the key financial indicators, looking at what's happening over your forecast period, you can see that from 2026 to 2035, we're actually seeing a decrease in your net financial assets that are taking place. And a lot of what that is, why that is happening is because of the significant increase in tangible capital assets that you will be adding over this forecast period of almost $45 million. You have an accumulated surplus that by the change in that between 26 and 35 is about 27.2 million. For your statement of operations, looking at the expense to revenue ratio, so how much of your revenue is actually being spent on all of the expenditures required. In 2026, that's projected to be about 72% of your revenues are going to be spent on expenditures. The balance would go into reserves, for example. Over the forecast period, we see that's decreasing to about 66%, but still very healthy where you're recovering from your rates what you will need to have to pay for all of the expenditures, both capital and operating, that are anticipated. Your statement of change, again, total acquisition of capital assets cumulatively over the forecast is actually almost $57 million. And your annual surplus cumulatively over that time period is about $39 million. So your ratio of annual surplus before amortization expenses on those tangible capital assets is actually increasing from 0.53 to 0.69. So you are going in the right direction. You are actually improving there. And your cash and cash equivalents at the end of 2026 is anticipated to be about 2.35 million. By the end of the forecast period, it will be down to about $1 million, but still in a positive position. Going forward, for the recommendations, we do recommend that you approve the financial plan so that it can be submitted to the province to get your water license renewal. Once it's approved, you have to provide that notice that it's available. The financial plan report in front of you was dated August 5th. It should be submitted to the Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing. As well, the resolution of council and a copy of the water financial plan also must be submitted to the Ministry of Environment, Conservation and Parks. That's my presentation for this evening. I'd be happy to answer any questions you have.
Questions from members of council? Comments from the director?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I've got no comments at this point. When we move into new business, I've got a very short staff report that I'll provide related to this and recommending the resolution be approved this evening. Nancy will stay online for us, so if there's any questions that do come up after my staff report, then Nancy's here, as well as Madam Treasurer.
Thank you. Thank you, Nancy Neal from Watson Associates. Very intense, but yet informative document. I'm sure we'll be looking at it into the future as well. So thank you for your presentation. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Our next order of business will be the 2026 Water System Financial Plan by Director Luce from Operations.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The recommendation from staff is that the combined committee endorse and recommend to council approval of the Water System Financial Plan, and that the mayor and chair of operations sign and approve the plan as indicated. While this is a financial plan, there are no immediate costs or implications. The annual budget is the prerogative of council of the day. Annual water rates related to this plan will be confirmed and supported by the water and sewer rate study that the consultant is presently undertaking. Nancy had mentioned that in her presentation. Nancy touched on the various requirements of the regulations under the Safe Drinking Water Act, with one of the requirements being to prepare and submit an updated financial plan covering the period of 2026 through 2035. The financial plan projects the financial position of the drinking water system under a series of assumptions relative to operations, maintenance, capital, reserves, and the revenue required to be generated. Financial plan is a statement of intent. It projects future expenditures and revenues, but the actual annual budget remains the responsibility of council of the day. Council still has the authority to set the annual budget. Staff recommends the committee endorse the water system financial plan, which was attached to the packages, with the enabling resolution before council later this evening. And just a reminder, and as Nancy had mentioned, the infrastructure needs study, the 20-year facility plan for the water purification plant, and the water and sewer rate study are still ongoing, and information on the future water rates will be in a separate report. The endorsement of the plan is a requirement of the drinking water system license and is to be included in our application for renewal, which will be sent later this week. And as I had mentioned, Nancy is still online if there's any further questions, as well as Madam Treasurer is here. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Councillor Fernier?
Yes, through the chair to whoever can answer it. Everything looks good. I know I went through this once before during my time, the very first water study that was brought forward. Future demand, so that is taken into account here, but in the reserve, is there an allowance for extreme capital works on our system? I know given like the expansions that are going on around us and the extra demand it's going to put on our system is, I would imagine that's been taken into account here when it comes to future reserves, because I'm looking at the number of reserves. There's quite a few numbers here, and I'm not an accountant, but I'm seeing that the end of 2035, it looks like there's only going to be just over $1 million total reserves balance. Accumulated surplus, there's a couple of lines there. Which one would it be? There's a million, 72, and then there's 53 million, which I think includes our assets, which obviously is not.
Who would be best to respond to that, Mr.
Yeah,
Lewis or Nancy?
I'll leave that for Nancy. She's got her
Okay.
hand up.
Nancy?
I'll jump in there. You're right. The tangible capital assets are included in the value of that higher number. The reserve balances are projected to be a net between all the reserves and reserve funds, $1 million at the end of the forecast period. Now, that is something that, again, the province recognizes that these financial plans are kind of a living document, and as budgets change, these will, those balances as actuals come in, things will change over time. One of the things we will be working with staff on later through the rate study is deciding whether or not there's a minimum balance that you want kept in the reserve funds for emergency purposes, and therefore that may actually result in a higher increase in water and in water rates. Could also affect the wastewater services as well, but that is something that we will take into consideration through that rate study when we have more details of all of the different pieces that come in that right now, unfortunately, because of the timing of the licensing, we didn't have all the information available to potentially build all that in yet. So that will come back to you as part of the rate study for further consideration.
Okay, thank you, because, yeah, obviously $1 million doesn't go very far, in this type of
No, not if a
facility.
water main breaks,
No.
for example.
So
There, it
that's
could be
my only
gone.
concern when I see this, so I would rather put the rates up a little more and not be faced with a catastrophe and have to go to our partners that are sharing the cost and say, okay, we need more money 10 years down the road. Okay, thank you very much.
Further comments? Deputy Mayor, I see you in the distance there, no? We require a resolution to move forward.
Yeah, we're asking for committee to approve, and a resolution will be in front of council this evening.
Councillor Lafreniere, you had your hand up. You will move.
Motion to accept
Motion
and
to accept.
approve.
Seconder? Councillor Purcell, discussion? Those in favor? Against? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Thank you, Director Lewis and
Thank you.
Ms. Neal.
Thanks, Nancy.
Thank you.
Thanks. Have a great night.
You too. Our next order of business will be the Pembroke Lumber Kings Agreement. Director Droscher. Welcome.
Thank you and good evening, Chair and Council. The recommendation for this report is that the Combined Committee of Council endorse and recommend to Council approval of a bylaw to authorize the execution of a 2-year rental agreement with the Pembroke Lumber Kings Junior A team. So as everyone is aware, the Pembroke Lumber Kings has been a historical franchise here within the City of Pembroke. And the City of Pembroke and the Pembroke Lumber Kings have been under agreement for the past year, which just expired July 31st. Since then, staff met with Mr. Armstrong to discuss the future of an agreement. So the idea of a 1-year agreement last year was to simply improve and shape the overall agreement. So kind of our idea here was that, take a step back, and we wanted to look at executing a plan that made sense financially to both parties. So this led into discussion for a longer term, which is a 2-year term that would commence and be backdated to August 1st, 2025 to April 30th, 2027. So you will notice that the ending date has changed. That's to April 30th versus traditionally July 31st. And so that's essentially just to align with off-season discussion. So we find it very difficult when the agreement ends July 31st, and we're already talking about getting back on the ice. So that'll improve that, as well as it'll align with the actual ice season. Our last physical day of ice potentially could be April 30th. The agreement would also follow the user fee and charges bylaw, Schedule D. So this is something that Council had approved, a 5% increase on all fees from 2024 through to 2026. And finally, I should note that Mr. Armstrong is in good financial standing with the city, and staff do recommend moving forward with this agreement. Thank you.
Councillor Purcell?
I move that we recommend to council to the approval of the bylaw to authorize the execution of the 2-year rental agreement with Pembroke Lumber Kings.
Recommendation moved by Councillor Purcell, seconded by Councillor Fernier. Further discussion? Go ahead, Councillor Purcell.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to say thank you to Director DeRoche. Last year he came with a really good proposal in regards to an agreement with the Lumber Kings, and I think it's meeting not only our needs, but it's also meeting the needs in terms of the Pembroke Lumber Kings. And you know, I see the revenues increasing in regards to the advertising, which is awesome. So again, I just wanted to communicate that I think that it was a very well put together agreement for the first year, and I'm looking forward to, you know, ongoing even further extensions in regards to 3-year contracts down the road. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Deputy Mayor?
I just want to thank Mr. DeRoche and staff for doing the agreement. I also want to thank the Pembroke Lumber Kings. We attend games periodically throughout the year, and their crowds are, you know, for the Central Hockey League that they're in, they always have the best attendance, and it's a mainstay of the community. So I'm really glad to see that it's going forward again, and they're in good financial position. Thank you.
Did we vote? No. Those in favor? Against? Carried. Thank you. Good evening, Ms. Sutherland. How are you?
Well, thank you.
Good. Welcome. And you're going to be informing us about item C, business retention expansion, final report, correct?
Yes.
Go ahead.
So the recommendation is that committee accept the final report as a working document for the Economic Development, Culture and Tourism Department for the next 2 to 3 years. And furthermore, that items described in the action plan be funded via the Economic Development budget through the regular budget process. So over the past 2 years, the city has been undertaking a business retention and expansion project. I will note that we received rural economic development funding through the province in the amount of just under $9,000 to help support this project. And the intent of this project is to have an in-depth discussion with the business community to understand what's working for them, what isn't working for them, and what the city then can do to help address the issues to make a better business climate for the business community here in Pembroke. So from the fall of 24 to winter 25, we conducted interviews with 32 businesses, and this was our first BRNE since 2017. This BRNE focused on small businesses, which for our purposes was defined as 10 or fewer staff, as well as our manufacturers. Our last one focused on our large employers as well as manufacturers. So the data from these interviews was then analyzed by a variety of stakeholders and then used to create the report that you have attached, as well as generate the action plan to help direct our department in order to support the business community. So I'd like to thank the province for the funding that supported this project, as well as the project team and members of our Economic Development Advisory Committee who helped shape and support this project. And finally, I would like to also thank the businesses who took their time to share their insights and feedback and thoughts with the city.
Questions? Councillor Purcell?
Thank you
Comment?
very much for your report. Appreciate it. I think it was just in terms of the disadvantage of doing business, I think we are starting to tick off a few of those, even since this report was in terms of transportation. You know, we've just implemented, you know, on-demand transportation throughout the city of Pembroke, which I know was one of the disadvantages in terms of getting from people from point A to point B, or getting them down to, you know, to participate in, you know, various different businesses and workers as well. So I do think that that's really, really important. We still have some work to do, and you know, I think some of the things that I see here in terms of, you know, making it better for businesses to thrive in our municipality are things I think that we're pretty much working on as a council as a whole. So yeah, I think this report. I wouldn't say it's something that I would say that it's new, like something that jumps out at me, other than, wow, there was only, I think there was one stat, I believe, that was really interesting, and it was in regards to just in terms of female-dominated businesses, 94% employ women, which is, that's a huge number, right? And I just thought, it'd be a little bit more like the 75-25, but we have to get some more diversity there. But no, this is great. I think it's did you, the feedback from the residents was, or from the businesses was, oh, okay, like, what are you going to do with this information now? Is that how it was kind of presented? Like, if somebody comes and asks me a bunch of questions, I'm going to say, okay, I'm going to tell you, but what are you going to do about it? So the strategy would built in our strategy plans in terms of some of the initiatives. Thought it's going to work.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so it was explained to them that their feedback would be used to create the action plan. And we started every interview with going over the recommendations that came from the 2017 plan and what work has been done on those recommendations since, to show part of our plan with this one is to be more publicly acknowledging the wins and the advances on the action plan, so that the business community can see that progress is being made based on their feedback.
Yeah, I think we're also picking away at some of the, you know, I think we're still continuing to pick away in terms of some of the other opportunities to make it a little bit better for not only your residents but the businesses within the city of Pembroke. So, thank you.
If I may, from the chair, you know, we're always excited when a new business opens downtown, you know, whether it's food store, candle shop, or whatever. And then, you know, a year or two later, you see going out of business sale. Do we ever have an exit interview with the owner saying, you know, was it something we did? Was it just, you know, was you decided you were going to close? Or was it a family issue, or you couldn't, you know, keep going? Do we do that? Do we do that in any way?
So formally at this time, no, we don't have an exit interview process. It is something that has been sort of anecdotally, we might know, either through discussions we've had, or if it's, say, a business in the downtown core, then they've maybe had discussions with the PBIA and their staff. It can be challenging to arrange such things. Typically at that point, people are maybe not interested in talking. They're just ready to go. So,
well, there may be various issues, but perhaps the PBIA, you know, they're dealing with the opening and the closures, et cetera. Even there was some feedback to your department, I think it'd be invaluable if we had done something wrong, for example, maybe, you know, would pave the highway for the next person coming along. It's not necessarily the case, but I'm just thinking, you know.
Yeah. Part of so you'll see in some of the actions with this is to increase our in-person touch points with the businesses, so that hopefully we'll be able to hear about any of those barriers well ahead of time, and then be able to take action to support them before they get to the point of closure.
Thank you. Anybody else? Okay, we'll go on to the next item of business.
The motion?
Oh, sorry, we need a motion for that? Yes, we need a mover. Moved by Councillor Fernier, seconded by Councillor Purcell. Further discussion? Those in favor? Against? Carried. Thank you. Do we have a conflict by councillor, or?
Not that was stated to me. He may be just using the washroom.
Oh. Well, I guess we'll have to wait, or do we have a quorum? I guess we
No,
could proceed.
we have quorum, so
Yeah.
I'll just note in the minutes the councillor left and
Yeah.
came back to the.
Okay, just sort of throw me a bit. Very good. Next item, the CIP request for 20 Pembroke Street West, Economic Development and Communications Officer, Ms. Sutherland.
Hi. So the Community Improvement Panel recommends that committee grant $574.16 to Luiana Mendez, tenant of 20 Pembroke Street West, for the Community Improvement Plan Downtown Heritage Facade Improvement Grant. And furthermore, that committee endorse and recommend to council approval of delegated authority to the Chief Administrative Officer to review and make decisions on community improvement plan applications received during the summer and Christmas periods when council is not in regular session. So we received an application for from this tenant. According to the provided low quote, $1,148.32 will be spent on a new sign. And according to the guidelines of the program, they're eligible for 50% up to a maximum of $5,000, hence the grant total of $574.16. So we received this application. This is a new restaurant going in downtown. They meet all the requirements of the grant program. In terms of not being in arrears, no open building permits, and no work orders from the fire department. The panel did vote unanimously to recommend this application for approval and noted how it liked that the quotes were from local contractors. I will note that the applicant has installed the sign as of July 30th. Therefore, the work has been done prior to council approval. They are aware that the guidelines stipulate that no work shall be done before council approval. However, the summer schedule of council would have caused a backlog with their timeline of work, so they went ahead with the installation.
Questions, comments? Need a mover? Moved by Councillor Purcell? Yes, I'll move. Moved by Councillor Purcell, seconder, Deputy Mayor?
Yeah, I'll second the motion.
Yes, we have you, Deputy Mayor, seconding? Yes, we have you as a seconder?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. Any further discussion? Those in favor? Against? Carried. Thank you. Proceed with the next item, please.
Okay, so we have a few more CIP applications here. So this is a combined one. So the recommendation is that the Community Improvement Panel recommend committee approve the following. $694.20 to Portia Strang, tenant of 143 Pembroke Street West, for the Community Improvement Plan Downtown Heritage Facade Improvement Grant. $10,000 to Sleepwell Property Management, owner of 188 Prince Street, for the Community Improvement Plan Downtown Housing Grant. And $5,000 to Falguni Patel, owner of 1044 Pembroke Street East, for the Community Improvement Plan Facade Improvement Grant. All the low quotes are noted for you here for each application and the eligibility of each of them. All three applications meet all the requirements of the Community Improvement Plan. And overall, we're just happy to see a really good uptake on the Community Improvement Plan in July.
Deputy Mayor?
Motion to approve the three items.
Motion approved by the Deputy Mayor, seconded by Councillor Lafreniere. Discussion? I have a question. Having reviewed, the minutes, there was a reference to bathroom fixtures in one of these units for
for the downtown housing grant?
Are bathroom fixtures part of like a heritage program? When you're talking about aesthetic value, I usually think of heritage facade or whatever, but not bathroom fixtures.
So the one application from Sleepwell is for the downtown housing grant, which is for the upgrading or creation of new residential units in the downtown core on the upper stories. So there is no heritage requirement.
Okay.
That's only in the facade grant for the downtown core.
Okay, I just found a little strange, but that may be me. Very good. Those in favor? Against? Carried. Thank you.
And then one last one, this one's separate as it came in after the previous reports had been done. So the Community Improvement Panel recommends that committee grant $5,000 to Andrew and Kelly Kuyak, owners of 2527 Pembroke Street West, for the Downtown Heritage Facade Improvement Grant. So according to the provided low quote, $17,000 plus HST will be spent on the new facade, doors, and windows. They're eligible for 50% up to a maximum of $5,000. Therefore, they're eligible for $5,000. They meet all requirements of the grant.
Mover or discussion? Moved by Councillor Purcell, seconded by Councillor Lavernier. Discussion? Deputy Mayor, did you have your hand up?
No, I was going to second the motion.
Okay, very good. I
I'm in
thought you had a
favor.
question. No questions? No further discussion? Those in favor? Against? Carried.
Thank you.
Thank you. Our next item is 8G, levels of service and the engagement survey. Treasurer, Deputy Clerk, Angela Lochte, welcome.
Good evening, everybody, and I have with me Jennifer Belair, who is going to be presenting the results of our first engagement survey.
Good evening,
related
Ms. Blair. I'm sorry I missed you there. You just sat down so quickly. Go ahead.
So we just have the short presentation up to go along with the report. So the recommendation is that the combined committee receive this report for information and furthermore provide staff direction for questions on future budget and asset management surveys. So to obtain feedback from the public related to levels of service for city infrastructure, the Treasury Department conducted an online survey from June 17th to July 13th. The survey provided residents with a brief description of asset management and levels of service. This initial survey was kept brief, asking what type of resident, their age, followed by 3 questions regarding different service areas. So you can see here that the full-time resident property owners made up 77% of the respondents, and 17% were property or full-time residents, but renters. The age is broken up here, so 35 to 44 was 21%. Oh, sorry. 45 to 54, 20%, 55 to 64, 20%, and 65 plus made up almost 25%. So the survey asked how satisfied the respondent was with each service area: fire, library, outdoor spaces, parks and trails, recreation facilities and programming, including the arenas, pool, and sports fields, garbage and recycling services, roads, sidewalks, bridges, storm sewer, drinking water, and sanitary sewer. The results from question 1, so we sorted the service areas by the level of satisfaction. So you can see here that residents were generally satisfied with drinking water, garbage, recycling, sanitary sewer, fire, and library. There was a split between somewhat satisfied and satisfied for outdoor spaces, storm sewer and recreation, and their general dissatisfaction with the roads, sidewalks, bridges. So the second question asked whether each service area should have a reduction in levels of service, remain the same, or increase. So residents propose to maintain the current service level for drinking water, garbage recycling, sanitary sewer, fire, and library. Over half respondents wish to increase current levels for outdoor spaces and recreation facilities. A third support an increase to storm, and almost 90% of respondents wish to see an increased service level for road infrastructure. And the last question aimed to determine the willingness in paying for the identified increases in service level. So residents are most willing to pay for improvements. So we combined somewhat willing and willing to roads, sidewalks, bridges, outdoor spaces, and recreation facilities. And they're somewhat willing to pay for improvements to the storm network. So there was also an opportunity for respondents to provide comments after each question. So some of the common themes that we found were fixing roads and sidewalks, as well as adding more sidewalks, fix and clean ditches in the storm network. In terms of drinking water, there was a theme of the rates being too high and low pressure being experienced. Recreation, they were looking for better facilities and more activities. General consensus of taxes being too high and wanting to find efficiencies. And some general feedback was utilizing the waterfront to earn more revenue, more tourism revenue, and utilizing more volunteer opportunities.
So that was an interesting feedback. So we are working on our asset management plan, which will include, our first version of the asset management plan that was issued last year included parking lots, recreation buildings, and other buildings and facilities. And fleet. So we're currently working on adding in the roads, sidewalks, and bridges. And storm into this plan, and then we have to come up with a financial strategy. So we wanted to kind of set the stage in terms of, just an overall comfort level in terms of how we're doing so far and like what areas we should focus on in terms of looking at where we're going with our levels of service and our road conditions, and trying to balance that with how much of a tax increase our residents willing to pay for. So we felt we want to keep all of our surveys kind of short to make sure at least we get some feedback. So we felt this was a good kind of start to it. And, from this feedback, we now have some ideas of some future follow-up surveys that we need to do. So we definitely would like to do one on the 2026 budget now that we have our engagement tool. So we wanted to ask people, what do they think our top 3 budget priorities should be this year, which could help inform some decisions at the staff and council level in terms of where our budget is going for next year. To rate the overall importance of all municipal services. So our first kick at the can was related to assets only. So this is looking at more of the different service categories that we offer and getting an example of some satisfaction, as well as trying to better understand. Right now we have a public meeting, we have a presentation, it's available on YouTube, but is there other ways people would like to receive budget information? Is there a better way of getting the word out so residents can understand, the pressures the city has on our different priorities? So that's sort of the next survey that we're planning to do. But based on this feedback and all of the various comments, we do feel we need to come up with one on sidewalks, looking at the potentially priority locations of new sidewalks. What are the preferred road conditions based on road type and linking that to ability to pay? Because if we want every road to be, on average a certain condition, there's a price tag that goes with that. There was certain comments about garbage and recycling services, so trying to get a better idea of where improvements could lie, and again, linking that to cost, as well as doing some priority setting on some of the recreation master plan items. So programming was mentioned. So perhaps there's certain programming we should be looking at as in terms of offering new opportunities in the community. So at this point, before we go too far down the road of follow-up surveys, we wanted to give council the opportunity to provide comment. And certainly, you don't have to give that tonight. The next in September, we will be issuing a budget survey. So if by the end of August, you could provide us with any feedback on, what you think might be good areas to explore in our budget survey, as well as further thoughts on some of these other areas, we always welcome that. And so we'll pass the floor back to the chair. Thank you.
So for information, basically, right? Members of council, comments, Councillor Purcell?
Thanks for the engagement survey. I think it's a good starter. I think it's kind of, I don't think there's anything that's surprising in there in regards to opportunities moving forward to increase some of our roads and those infrastructure types of issues. I guess my only concern is that probably half of the individuals that answered are over 55 years of age, which I think could be skewed. So these are people that are probably later in life, that are property owners, maybe focused in terms of something a little bit different than maybe some of the younger individuals within the community. So I just want to make sure that, maybe, I don't know how we can do that, but maybe we can target a younger demographic as well, just to make sure that we're capturing, they're busy working, they're raising families, they're not really engaged in terms of, filling out surveys. So maybe there's an opportunity to kind of get a little bit more engagement from that group, just to see if it's still aligned, because I would say 55 and plus, I'm looking at, yeah, you're right, I'm driving around town, there's potholes or, a sidewalk or something along the lines, because I'm using them, right? And also the recreation component, because I have a little bit more time I can spend with the recreation program. So is that really important to me, but may not be as important to somebody that's working, and I think more of the sidewalk issues, if there's children involved, those kinds of things. So just wondering how you can kind of peel that onion back a little bit by a couple layers, just to see what that looks like. But other than that, I think it's a great start.
So some municipalities do kind of tag and have like a little information booth at the arena for a weekend or things like that. So that's something that we can look at, depending on the subject matter, to try to get some of the younger demographic who might not be as engaged with municipal politics as the older set is.
Just as a response, I think it also skews in terms of the willingness to pay for things because of that population. And then I'm just wondering, because, if you go back and look at some of the comments, is that our taxes are too high, we pay too much for this, we pay, there's quite a few of those as well. I just want to make sure we're not missing something there, that's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Kiel.
I'm definitely glad to hear that we're going to be doing more engagement, because when I was looking at the survey myself, I was kind of wondering if I would completely find this information useful, and now that I know it's more of a starting step, that makes a little more sense to me. I'm not actually surprised at all by the results. In fact, I think I could have predicted this. I'm not trying to, I literally think I could have predicted these results down to 100%. Not specific numbers, but of the things. I would like perhaps maybe, if people are going to sit down and take the time to do this, they're obviously engaged people. And I think we should consider taking a moment to educate them while we're doing them. I get that people complain about the roads. People were complaining about the roads years before I was on council. People were absolutely complaining about the roads while I was running for council. And I can only imagine the people will be complaining about roads long after I'm off council. But do they know that, and I'm glad Director Lewis kind of stuck around, I think for us to do a few blocks of road and sewer, I think the last one on Nelson Street wasn't it a $3 million project? Director Lewis is saying yes. So, a $3 million project, isn't that like a 12% tax increase? That's one project. So I get that our roads seem bad, and I'm not going to tell residents that they're wrong in how they view the state of the road, but I think they need to, when they're filling out these surveys, I think they need to know what the actual cost is. That has nothing to do with our budget, that has nothing to do with any of us sitting around the table. That's the actual cost of a recent project. And so if they want 3 blocks of road done, where do they think the $3 million is coming from? We're not going to find staff efficiencies. We'd have to fire 30 people to make that up. That's not going to happen. And truthfully, I don't believe that that's the people that were typing that. I don't think they themselves were expecting us to fire 30 people. So I think while we're going in the next step, if we're truly going to get down to the individual's core in terms of what they're looking for, I think during that process we might have to spend just a little bit of time factually educating them on some of the realities of things. Personally, with respect to Parks and Recreation, I don't want to put you on the spot, Angela, but I think at one point I asked you roughly what revenues we're getting from Parks and Rec compared to the Parks and Rec budget, and I feel as though you said user fees cover about 20-some%. Again, that's my memory. I'm not holding you to it, but I personally think that we should be not entirely a user pay system. I don't want kids paying $12,000 to play soccer. But I think if we want new facilities and if we want to maintain our facilities, we need to increase what actual users are paying for things. Because there's also Parks and Recreation aspects. Frankly, a big part of our waterfront is not making any revenue at all. Yes, we rent out the amphitheater, and I think very rarely we rent the field, but generally speaking, that's not meant to be a park with users. That's meant to be a park for free enjoyment. Well, if we're going to have free enjoyment parks, we need fees coming in from somewhere to help pay for them, and it's either tax dollars or it's fees. So I think as a first step, I think this shows, I think that a lot of us on council were kind of on the right footing in terms of what we thought the taxpayers were thinking, but now I think we need to drill down and put the same tough questions to them that we get at budget, which is, this is what you want, but this is what the cost is, and what do you want to trade for it? If we want to triple everybody's taxes, that's not even going to fix every road in town. Like, let's be honest with the people. That won't even fix every road in town. I think the one thing that we have going against us as well is that a lot of our neighbors see a lot of roadworks done in other municipalities where they don't have water and sewer, and it's a lot cheaper to do a shave and pave. If all Pembroke had to do was shave and paves, I'm assuming Director Lewis would tell me that we could do a lot more surfacing than what we're doing. But when you start talking water and sewer, we're now talking millions of dollars instead of hundreds of thousands of dollars. So again, I get that you might look at your friends in Laurentian Valley and say, well, gosh, they just did, 10 blocks of roads this year. Yeah, but it was significantly cheaper to do that when it was just shaving and paving than it is for us to have to replace water mains and sewers. So I think just going forward in the next steps, and certainly with respect to, you said, the pre-budget polling, I think we just need to add some education component and ask them the tough questions, not just what their wants are. I have lots of wants. But when you sit around this table, just like you sit around the table at home, sometimes your wants, that vacation, isn't happening this year. And maybe it's not happening this year because of inflation. We also here at the city experienced inflation. I think back to one of the first meetings that I had as a councillor, and Councillor Jacquinot spoke to the fact then that the people don't realize what chemicals and stuff we have to buy to put into the water to make the clean water, and how expensive they are and how much they went up after COVID. So again, I don't want to lecture the people, but you know, if we're looking at people that are engaged, the people doing the survey are ones that actually are engaged. Let's give them a little bit of information and see what we get back from that.
Thank you. Very sage question. Councillor Fournier.
Yeah, no, I found this interesting. Some of the comments are interesting. But I agree. A lot of this is coming from lack of knowledge as to what the budget actually looks like and how much we're spending already in certain areas. Something I find interesting here is non-residents. When I look at that triangle on that pie chart, looks like it's probably very close to 20%. And I would imagine that's a lot of the road complaints, because I know a lot of individuals that travel into our community complain about the roads. That's unfortunate because, you know, I mean, they have to come here to shop, a lot of them, and that type of thing. Anyway, I like this, but I do agree with Councillor Purcell. I want to know what age groups are concerned about which items. I know on any given day, I can ask someone who's maybe got a mortgage and is in their 30s or 40s, what do you pay in taxes? A lot of them don't know. So I find it hard to imagine that they're the ones complaining about the taxes. They hear that taxes are high, but if you ask them on any given day, what do you pay in taxes? A lot of the young people I've asked don't know because it's included in their mortgage. They'd have to go look through all their mortgage papers and everything to find it out. It's my opinion that a lot of people complaining about taxes would be more my age or people that are on a very fixed income that own a home or they're widowed or widower, you know. So yeah, I would rather see a breakdown of that because maybe the younger people want more recreation for their families and are less concerned about the roads or whatever. But yeah, without that, I have a hard time knowing where to drill this down. So, thank you.
Deputy Mayor, you shrunk. Did you have your hand up?
Yeah, I'm right here. Can you hear me?
You can. Did you have a question?
I have a question and a comment for the Ms. Belair. How many total respondents were there, did you say?
There was 286.
286? Okay, thank you. Well, just a comment, as other councillors have commented. You know, we're an older community and the comments weren't surprising to me. Old infrastructure, sidewalks, roads, and we only have so much money in the budget. We've talked about the Association of Municipalities of Ontario talking with the province to take back some of the downloaded programs because all across Ontario, all the municipalities are saying we can't keep doing these tax increases every year on the backs of the homeowner. Someone's going to break. The provinces have more revenue streams than we do. You know, we can increase fees, we can increase taxes, or we can grow our municipal tax base, which includes more homes. But it's no surprise to me, some of the comments. You know, some people don't go to the library. We support the city residents support the library in the tune of over $500,000 a year. Some people don't support transit, but a lot of people do. And some people don't have children in recreational hockey. So it's a balancing act. We have a lot of work to do. We know that the Recreation Master Plan and some of these comments that I read are calling for a new recreation facility, but we also have to maintain what we have and plan for the future. I know that Councillor Keel and Plummer and Purcell are diligently meeting with the Sports Specs Committee with their Retro Valley counterparts. So, you know, long-term planning. So, you know, you look at the OPP and the policing. I know the province is doing a review of the fees. It goes up every year. And so that's another report we're waiting on. So we really have to lobby the province also, and it's a balancing act, and we can't keep every year these tax increases. Nobody wants an increase, and everyone wants good roads and sidewalks, but how do you pay for it? And as Councillor Keel mentioned, tonight at the council meeting, we have a tender going out for the second phase of the Moffat sewer intake, and that's over $2 million. So it's a real tough challenge, and we have a lot of work to do, and we have to work together with partners in the province to make it work. And I'll have more comments after the September report. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Just a couple from the chair. I read all of the comments, the 270 of them. Ones that disturbed me the most were the ones about the dark water. And I'm just wondering, do people understand sometimes it's your water tank? It's not the water that's coming from, the supplier of the water. The water, when it leaves the plant, is clean. Is there a breakdown in their piping system? So I think people sometimes think we're pumping dirty water, but we're not. But, they should understand that there may be an internal problem within the building, the homeowner's responsibility. It's not us. So did it serve its purpose? I believe it did. Could we make it better? I think we could. And I just want to thank you for the information. I think it's good to see what people are thinking. And as Councillor Keel said, we're not really surprised by the comments because they seem to be historical comments. From 1900 on, they probably, if you had that survey, pending new technology, I think many of those comments would have been exactly the ones that we're getting. So thank you for the work, and I think it can improve. And as Councillor Keel said, what's the next step? Education. That's so important. Thank you. Transit update. Thank you, Ms. Blair.
Thank you. Okay, so my next report is the August 2025 transit update. So I am happy to report that our new on-demand transit service officially launched on August 5th, and we held a launch event at Algonquin College on Thursday, July 31st. So for the record, I have included a copy of the launch presentation, and this has also been added to the ORTC website. So I'm happy to report that so our dashboard is still being formatted, but I've been told from Left Turn, Right Turn that we had over 100 rides in our first week, which is a great start. That's good. We have been talking a bit about where the transit committee is going to go from here. So we are going to start shifting the transit committee to a regular meeting schedule and agenda format starting this fall. So our thinking is that transit committee meetings will be held in the late afternoon or evening of the second Tuesday on a bi-monthly basis, with a follow-up report presented to the Finance and Admin Committee on the first Tuesday following that. So we are currently discussing the development of our transit service dashboard, and we have our first meeting with Blaze Transit on that tomorrow. So stay tuned for more information on that. The next item for discussion is the FCM Green Municipal Fund. So while this is on the agenda, we're not able to make any public announcements at this time, so we're not allowed to announce anything on social media or press releases or anything. But we have been approved for the we have received approval for funding of up to $500,000 to develop and deliver an affordable on-demand electric vehicle service pilot project aimed at improving mobility and accessibility within our 14.35 square kilometer areas of the city of Pembroke. So we would be permitted to operate this would require us to operate 2 electric transit passenger vans to reduce greenhouse gas emissions while promoting equity by offering accessible transportation to both seniors and low-income residents. So I will follow up on when a formal announcement can be made, but it would be after the agreement is signed by both parties and run through their communication departments. So essentially, this grant would cover any incremental cost difference between the diesel vehicles that we currently have for the first year of the project and the electric vehicles. So we would need to switch them out in year 2 and replace them with electric vehicles. And this would also have to be done in step with the completion of the charging infrastructure, which is the next item to be discussed. So currently, the lead time for transformers for the electrical charging infrastructure for electric transit vehicles is estimated at 72 weeks, and that includes procurement and project mobilization. So it will take a little bit of time to get the chargers installed. So we're currently thinking of, a fall time frame for being able to implement electric vehicles in year 2 of the pilot project. So we would also be required to incur additional consulting to support a final grant reporting so that we can quantify our environmental benefits of the project and the amount of greenhouse gas emissions the city was able to save as a result of the project. So I would be providing an updated transit project forecast once we completed a vehicle lease tender for the lease of electric transit vehicles. So, in order for us to be able to accept this funding, we do need to install our level 3 fast chargers, for which we did receive $100,000 grant funding from ZEVIP. Again, we're not allowed to make any formal announcements, but we have already assigned the agreement for that. So the grant application and the capital budget was based on preliminary information that was received from both ORPC and ORES, but the timing of the grant application did not allow some initial site design. So we have since gone through a full site planning and design with JP2G, who has provided the city with a detailed site evaluation, tender quantities, tender drawings, and an estimate of cost. So unfortunately, coupling that with more up-to-date design of the electrical infrastructure from ORPC, and ORES has transferred some costs that they were initially going to pay for over to us, so the city will be responsible for the concrete install. Unfortunately, the cost of the project is significantly over budget based on all of these revised estimates. So we haven't tendered the construction yet, so the design and site works is just based on the JP2G estimate at this point, but it is the current forecast for the installation of these 2 chargers is over $537,000 in comparison to a $261,600 budget. So obviously, I think along with everybody else, I'm not very happy at how much, at the difference between the budget and the actual. So this is our first installation of electrical vehicle charging infrastructure, and it has provided valuable feedback on complexities. So some of the rationale for the cost increases from budget to our current forecast is that there has been a transformer redesign to ensure that the charging station can still operate should one transformer fail. So initially we were talking about one large transformer, which we are now saying would be serviced by 2 smaller transformers. And ORPC has received some ESA feedback on what would be permitted under the requirements for this installation. So we have also had to incorporate additional and future site power requirements into the mix, including a security camera to support the operation of the station. As I mentioned, ORES costs are going down. However, the ORES estimate initially included some site works, which is now being transferred to the city and is included with our site evaluation and tender drawings. The scope of the site works itself has increased. So originally, the plan was just to have to do some minor curb work and patching. So we have instead moved the concrete pads for the transformer and the bases for the chargers into the site works. Looking at the entrance, the parking lot entrance itself, there are some safety concerns because any larger vehicle would have to cross into the other lane to make the turn into the parking lot. So that would require correction. We are considering in the future to install a canopy over the charging area with space available for 2 additional chargers. But because of the proximity to the high power lines and the transformers, we have one shot at being able to do some footings for this, because once everything's installed, we're not going to be able to do that in the future unless we have the footings already in place at that location. Initially, we had included storm drainage as well into the scope of work, but we removed this to reduce the scale of costs. So when the initial cost estimates came in, I did meet with our CAO to go over it in detail with JP2G, and we did try to cut out as much as we possibly could out of the scope of work to try to get the costs to come down. So this is the result of that conversation, which unfortunately is still a pretty high dollar value. So certainly moving forward, in terms of setting the budgets, we should do an initial site evaluation and preliminary design, which was not possible in this instance. So I have been able to find funding through other, like the small balances left over from 2024 capital projects to fund the difference, as we do with other budget overages. I will say that this policy, the installation of the chargers and the acceptance of moving forward with an electric bus pilot does support the city's declaration of a climate emergency, participation in the FCM Partners for Climate Change Protection Program, and the utilization of a climate lens on city projects and infrastructure. So, so the recommendations are that the combined committee endorse and recommend to council approval of the following. So the FCM Green Municipal Fund grant agreement included in the council agenda later this evening. So the city has 30 days or until August 30th to accept the terms of the agreement. To allow for the procurement from ORPC with cost estimated at $84,000 and ORES with cost quoted at $212,000 required to support the installation of 2 DC level 3 fast chargers, and that the related project budget shortfall for the installation of 2 level 3 fast chargers be funded from 2024 capital funding from various capital projects, with remaining funds available for reallocation. So I know the mayor could not be here tonight, so he did email me, and I do have his, so he did ask that his comments be made known. So his comments on this report was that in respect to the fast chargers, it is my understanding that the cost is more than double what has been budgeted, and the switch to electric is planned for year 2 of a 3-year pilot project. Further, I understand correctly, this is more than double. This more than double overage is to come from excess 2024 capital projects. As I have explained to ratepayers before by speaking to this at council meetings, the surpluses are taxation dollars, not grants or monies from other sources. I read the report regarding the public view on levels of service as well, which clearly shows a dissatisfaction with road infrastructure. If my understanding is correct, instead of using such surplus funds on road projects, it would instead be used for fast chargers. Even if I am wrong in this, the cost is now more than double than what was projected. As he does not expect to be present, he asks that the item be tabled to enable full discussion, and at the very least, he would ask that his comments be made known to council on Tuesday evening. So he is correct, the surplus funds could be used on other projects. It doesn't have to be used on the chargers. The chargers, even though this is a 3-year pilot project for transit, the chargers could be used in the future by the Recreation Department. And I do believe the city should be looking at installing chargers at all 3 identified possible locations in the future to facilitate the adoption of electrical vehicles, which is, the future of vehicles. And that we do need the chargers to be able to accept the $500,000 worth of funding from FCM to trial electric vehicles in year 2 and 3 of the transit pilot project. So I will pass the mic back to the chair.
Thank you. Lots to absorb comments. Councillor Fernier, Councillor Kale.
So, yeah, I don't like that large differential either. I know the original locations was operations yard and the fire hall, and I know the operations yard, it says, was not selected due to lack of space to accommodate the vehicles. But maybe some of those other problems would be alleviated, like you wouldn't need to widen the parking lot entrance, et cetera, I don't know. The fire hall, like, can we relook at those locations? Maybe they wouldn't be so expensive now, looking at the additional work that has to take place at that overflow lot. So I don't know, you know, I mean, maybe it would be more fiscally acceptable to put it at the fire hall. I know I saw the spare vehicles parked there now. I know it's got nothing to do with charging, I know that. But it has security, it has lighting. I don't know about power, I don't know about anything else, but it certainly has wide enough driveways to get in. So I just wonder now, should we step back a little bit and find out now if the fire hall would be a better spot? And there's always people there. So I mean, that would be my suggestion, is let's just take a step back, if we have time, to say, are we going to save any money by putting it at the fire hall now? When we look at, there's no trees to be removed, you know, things like that. So that would be my only suggestion, because I don't like that huge increase either. I mean, I'm supporting the transit pilot project, but you know, the first sell on me was it wasn't going to be a huge financial burden. And I agree with the mayor that surplus is not money that comes from the skies. It still is money that could go back into other work. So again, now the price tag of transit just went up a bit. So that is my only concern. So I would maybe like to say, let's look at the fire hall again. So that's my opinion.
Did you want to respond to that prior to Councillor Keel's comment?
Yeah, so the other.
Sorry.
Oh, sorry. So the other, I guess the other
Sorry.
consideration is the availability of a public washroom. So the fire hall doesn't have that for the drivers, unfortunately. So. Well, right now that's not being permitted. So I guess that's something to be discussed. Yeah.
Okay, Councillor Keel.
So the public washrooms at the front of the fire hall aren't public washrooms?
No, they are not public washrooms. And, you know, in the situation where, say on a Saturday, Sunday, when we do have these operations, there's no one there to let them in. If there is no one in the front and the individuals are out in a situation fighting a fire, those are not public washrooms. They're like, that building is not a public building. It is for the fire department.
What public washroom exists in the PMC overflow parking lot?
Well, the PMC is open for the hours of operation, mostly, because the rink's open till 11, so it would only be during the summertime. So this is something that would also have to be addressed on the site at a certain point. The charging happens typically during the day, like Monday to Saturday, with the changeover. Like, for it to charge, it's going to have to come in during daytime hours for charging. Like, it could do trickle charging overnight, but during the day, there's going to need to be a break. So right now, there is a split shift where the electrical vehicle could come in, get charged, the person could take lunch, and then take it back out again, like depending on our schedule. But the use of some type of bathroom has to be part of the equation in terms of where we're going to put it as well.
Okay, I mean, it sounds like in both instances we have gaps in the availability of a public washroom, but moving beyond that, so in terms of the extra taxpayer dollars, so we got a grant up to 500,000. So is it the 37,000 plus the almost inevitable overrun that we're talking about?
Clear on that? Are you clear on that? Can you clarify, Councillor Keel?
So the total cost was 537,654. We got a grant for up to 500. So is the extra on the backs of the taxpayers that 37?
Okay, so I understand that question now. Thank you. So the grant that we received for the chargers is 100,000. So it's basically 437,000 would be property taxes. The transit pilot itself would benefit from the 500,000, although there could be extra costs for leasing the electric vehicles because that might be slightly more expensive than diesel. So we'd have to tender that to find out. As well, we do have to spend an extra $10,000 on final reporting for this grant to try to estimate the environmental impacts of the project.
So with the cost differential, if we're only in a 3-year pilot. We're talking about this coming in year 2. If we just kept the diesel buses for the 3-year pilot to see if this even works before we build a $500,000 pad and electric charger, are the taxpayers going to be at a net benefit or a net loss if we just stay the course for now? I'm all in favor of moving towards electric. In fact, I'm all in favor of the city putting in more electric chargers because I also agree that that's where things are moving. And at the end of the day, I don't want to be that city on the map that nobody can find chargers anywhere. Frankly, I think we're already probably behind. And if it was up to me, we'd have a bylaw requiring in the next 10 years that the malls and some other places as a mandatory place have to have chargers. But I guess I'm just asking, yes, we get that grant money, which assists us in the overall project, but are we ahead or behind if we just push off this electric trial to when we actually decide if we want buses or not in 3 years?
Is it the deadline for the application that is a concern?
So we have to respond to the application by the end of this month. And in terms of your question, it's hard to estimate, but I would say we're probably going to be about the same, like before or after, right? Like, as if you look at right now, the costs are, and this is just off the top of my head, the costs are $537. If we take out that $100,000 grant, that's a cost to the taxpayer of $437,000. We get a grant of $500,000. There will be extra costs. It's probably going to be a wash, but we're going to have a charger out of it that other departments can use. And we're also providing operations with some valuable feedback on how electric vehicles operate, because I know there's a lot of reticence from other departments because they don't want to be the guinea pig. So, this is going to give us valuable information about how they operate, how long they last, how much can they handle, what are some things you have to take into account operationally to make them work. So,
did we look at the PMC parking lot itself instead of the overflow?
So the reason for the overflow is because the pole that's required is right there at the back of that parking lot. So we are situating it. So it's basically, as you drive in, it's on the left-hand side. And the pole that we're pulling the power from is right at the end of the paved area, right behind there. Because the further we have to pull the power, the more and more expensive it costs with poles and overhead wires or underground wires or whatever. So it was recommended to situate it as close to the required pole as possible, and that's where the 3 locations came up, because we have those high voltage lines on city-owned properties in those 3 areas.
So then where do you propose the 400,000 comes from? Yeah, but from what surplus?
So there already was tax dollars assigned to it. So it's basically from a variety of small projects that are tax dollars, which is basically cleanup from 2024 budget. So if we didn't use it in this case, we would be using it for some capital projects that are going to be coming forward in the 26 capital budget. Because this is because we'll often have 10,000 here, 20,000 there. So it's easily 10 different projects. So we'll kind of clean it up and we'll just allocate it to something similar in the 26 budget to close out all the projects. So this is a cleanup activity that happens every year. But it could, so instead of doing it for the chargers, it could go towards another capital project that's taxation related.
You okay with that? I know you're not okay with that, Councillor Keel, but you satisfied with the response to this point? Thank you. Deputy Mayor, I know you may want to say something about that. Did you have your hand up? I'm sorry, I don't see your hand up.
Yeah, I'm gonna wait till
Councillor
the
Purcell.
everybody speak.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. We always said that, you know, we're for transportation as long as it's not too expensive. That was one of my concerns. But that being said, the goal of the project is to move people from point A to point B. We can do that with the diesel vehicle that we already have, because also, if you're going to replace, you're not going to replace the whole fleet with electrical, because you're going to need a diesel backup, from what I understand. So you have to disposition 2 of those vehicles, which will be substantially reduced from brand new, with 1 year of wear and tear on them. And then you have to factor in the break, the midday break, right, in terms of valuable time for individuals to that are working. And I'm thinking that, you know, these incentives from the provincial government may not disappear wholly, right? So are we gambling? In one sense, yes. My preference would be just to stay with the diesel until the 3 years, and with the goal of the project being moving people from point A to point B. Come back and reevaluate to see how it interacts with the other service providers, and see how, you know, if there's utilization that warrants it. And then at that time, you know, I would think that there might be, I would think that there would be, you know, incentives from governments to move to a different transportation power, but then, you know, there's lots of work that's going on with hydrogen. There's lots of work going on with all the kinds of different things, right? So, and it's strictly for the cost, and I understand that we'll come out with a, you know, 2 DC fast chargers, but we don't have any equipment right now that utilizes those fast chargers other than the vehicles themselves, right? So I'm more apt just to continue with the status quo in terms of, you know, continuing with the diesel vehicles. They're reliable. You know, we don't have to predict in terms of, or be the guinea pigs, like you had said, in regards to winter operations and charging, and you know, and then we can also limit the costs associated, because we have pretty much all the infrastructure that we need for them to operate now for the 3-year period, you know, other than some covering for those vehicles, but they're sure we can find some sort of space for those. But yeah, I don't think I'd vote in favor for the additional costs in terms of the DC chargers. I just think at this time, I think it's, the main goal was to move people from point A to point B, and we're doing that.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor?
Thank you. Yeah, so this grant from the Federation of Canadian Municipalities, we got grandfathered for it, so they won't have it. They've redesigned their grant program. They won't have it after this, but there could be other grants down the road. I have a question through the chair for the treasurer. The design and site works, 240,000 versus 30,000 originally. If you move location to another spot, what would that I don't know if you can even answer this, but what would that lower the design and site works to? Like,
so through the chair, so we would have to do another, like, we'd have to hire JP2G to do the same thing as they did again at a new site, with the help of ORPC and ORES to come up with a site plan and an estimate of costs. So we would have to hire JP2G to do that assessment and come back to us.
If we approve the grant by August 30th, can we opt out later? Can we approve it with the FCM on the condition that we do a site plan estimate for a different location than the overflow parking lot? because it's a huge increase, as everyone is saying, from 30,000 to 240.
Madam Treasurer, are you able to answer that?
Well, I guess generally it's bad form to accept a grant and give it back, because that's what we would essentially be doing with ZEVIP, is saying, you know, thank you,
Yeah.
but we can't do it. So it's not to say that we have to move forward with it if we agree, but it just, they'll keep that in mind the next time you make an application, right? Whether they say that to you
Yeah,
or not.
That's the problem. It's the challenge of the huge increase for that location.
Well, members of council, we have to make a decision, one way or the other. What is your wish? Councillor Fernier?
Well, through the chair again, this is a pilot project. So how much do we want to investigate? And I mean, I'm trying to be positive about this and say, you know, it's going to be gangbusters and we're not going to be able to move as many people that want to be, you know, but we don't know that. So to go ahead and say we're going to spend a lot more, I mean, I may not be at this table, but I think the discussion would not be very favorable that we invested that much money if it doesn't succeed. And I don't even want to say that because I don't want to paint it with that brush, but this is a pilot project and we're supposed to evaluate it later and say, okay, how much did it cost the city? Is it feasible, right? So that's why I'm reluctant to spend this extra money. So if someone wants to put forward a motion, or I'll put forward a motion that we not proceed at this time.
Go ahead, Mr. Unruh or Madam.
You just put the motion as presented and you just don't carry it.
Okay.
So we need to move on either defeat or
It would be administratively better, just so Angela has her direction in writing, just to not carry it. So you'd put forward the resolution as presented in the report, and then you just, nobody supports it. Well, to mover and seconder to put it on the floor, and then you just don't carry it.
So I will move that we put it on the floor.
we have a
Yes.
mover?
Turn it down.
Yes.
Okay.
You just don't support the motion. So,
Yeah, you're right.
do you need this in writing, or you can just take direction? For the grant purposes, that's all I'm thinking about. Yes, you are correct, Councillor Keel.
So there is a bylaw tonight that I guess it will just be defeated. Yeah, or we pull it. Yeah.
So direction would be not to proceed with the bylaw based on the information that has been garnered. Councillor Purcell, or Councillor Keels, all right.
I move that this committee recommend to council not to proceed with the bylaw tonight.
Move not to proceed with the bylaw as presented with the information from our treasurer. Do we have a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Purcell. Those in favor? Against? Carried unanimously. You have your direction. Yes?
So just a follow up to that. So do you want me to then go back to ZEVIP to say we're withdrawing our support for the grant and kind of go through that process as well? Or do you want me to hire JP2G and spend more money to look at the other site? If ZEVIP agrees, we could potentially move the site.
The deadline for the application is the end of the month or
So
September?
the FCM deadline accepted, like we have already approved the grant agreement from ZEVIC to install the chargers. So I would have to go back to them to either say we're not doing it at all, or can we look at a different,
Future date?
like at a different location? Which I don't know, because the grant application that I did was for this specific location, so I don't know if they would allow it, but I could ask them that question.
Well, I guess the only way to follow up would be to ask them, right?
Okay. Okay.
Is that okay with
Okay.
council?
So I'll bring that back in September with
Okay,
an update.
bring it back. Thank you. Next item, retaining wall repair, War Memorial Park, Director Lewis.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The recommendation is that the City of Pembroke Combined Committee approves the following: reallocation of $10,000 capital budget from the Highway 148 sidewalk install to the War Memorial Park retaining wall repair, and the allocation of approximately $12,500 from the Memorial Park wall project surplus to the War Memorial Park retaining wall repair. The financial comment, as part of the 2025 capital budget, $10,000 was carried forward for sidewalk installation on Highway 148 as part of that reconstruction project. And a 2024 carried forward project to repair the concrete wall on the west side of Memorial Park. That was completed this year for approximately $2,500, leaving a surplus of approximately $12,500. The anticipated cost of the wall repair, retaining wall repairs in the magnitude of $15,000 to $25,000. The retaining wall on the Pembroke side of the Pembroke Street side of the War Memorial Park. It was constructed several decades ago. Evidence shows that it has been repaired in the past, and it's now deteriorated from the inside out and from behind the wall. Has become a danger to pedestrians using the sidewalk and to the users of War Memorial Park. And I'm sure Council has noticed that there's some temporary supports that are up there now and barricades to protect pedestrians on the sidewalk. We have had discussions with the Director of Parks and Recreation, the CAO, and the Chief Building Official to come up with the recommendations that are included in this report. If approved, the project would include demolition of the existing wall and the installation of a new precast concrete wall, similar to the decorative walls that's used on the downtown connectors. You'll see them on Victoria Street, Alexander Street, and Agnes Street. The operation department does have retaining wall blocks in stock, left over from a previous project. We would have to purchase some additional caps. And we may need a railing on top of that because of updated code compliance. The alternative that was considered is to remove the wall entirely, not replace it. If we do that, we're going to have to slope the ground back into the park significantly just to make up that difference in height. It will negatively impact a large tree that's in the location. It could negatively impact the neighboring property, and it definitely will adjust the way Memorial Park is used. So, as some attachments included, there was the existing retaining wall, the crack that we showed, and what the new retaining wall will look like. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Discussion, Councillor Fernier, Councillor Purcell.
I'm going to support the recommendation. I think it's been something that's been there forever, that wall, and I think because the fact that it's not that easy to just take it away, there's other work that has to be done that is going to affect that site. So I am going to be putting forward a motion to approve the recommendation as outlined.
Motion on the floor by Councillor Fernier to approve the recommendation for the reinstatement of the Memorial Park wall facing Pembroke Street. Do we have a seconder? Second by Councillor Purcell. Discussion?
In terms of discussion for the seconder, yeah, I saw that there was the additional support bars that were put in place, so it's great. It's in a safe state. So right now, I do like the idea in terms of removing the first part of the wall, and then the second half of the wall with a railing on top of it. I do think that's a great idea, and I think it's probably a safety issue and would address some of the safety concerns that we've had in the past in regards to that wall. So I think that needs to be incorporated into it. And I guess my only other comment would be is, has Branch 72 been engaged as well? I just want to make sure that they're aware that we're conducting this work, and if there's any input that they might have in regards to, because it is a viewing area for various different ceremonies. So.
Go ahead, Director.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We have been in touch with the Legion, discussed it. The mayor has also been in touch with the Legion regarding that. Timing-wise, we believe that we will have no issues in getting this complete before the Remembrance Day ceremonies. The railing, maybe not, but at least we'd have the wall and everything else put in place by then.
Councillor Keel, comment?
Yeah, I think it's, you know, we just had two fun decisions. This is really, frankly, an easy decision. The wall is definitely, I mean, it looks like it was collapsing. I don't know how else to explain it, but the one day when I drove by, and I don't know if it was your words, some workers were out there sort of standing around it, which is what drew my attention to it, and it looked pretty bad. And now I see we have, I guess, some wooden panels bracing to keep it up. So, I mean, to me, this is, you know, perhaps not an emergent issue, but an urgent one, to be sure. I think the proposed example looks nice. Certainly, our Victoria Street is one of our nicest downtown streets. So if it's going to look that impressive, I think that's fantastic. And certainly, you know, I want to thank our chief building official, because I know he also was involved in removing a wall towards the back corner, and I know Jordan has also talked about possible need to shore up the monument itself, because I guess it's maybe eroding or something under that. So certainly anything we can do to you know, to keep up this very important and reverend place is certainly worth doing. So I thank you for your speed and finding a good solution.
No further comments. I'll call the question. Those in favor? Against? Carried unanimously. You have your direction, Mr. Lewis. Next item, the Isabella Catchment Area Number 2, Moffett Street, Renfrew Street to Mary Street tender.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Recommendation is that the combined committee endorse and recommend to council approval of the following. Isabella Catchment Area 2, Moffett Street, Renfrew Street to Mary Street, tender contract number 2365-1, be awarded to Bonashare Excavating, Inc. in the amount of $2,140,869.56 plus HST, that being the lowest responsive and responsible bidder, and approval of additional expenditures in the amount of $300,000 for contingency allowance. The total value of the recommendations equal $2,440,869.56 plus applicable HST. As part of the 2025 capital budget, there was a budget of just over $3.6 million was identified for this project. Total project costs as tendered, including contract administration, construction, additional expenditures, and net HST, is going to total $2,602,004.67. The above award also includes award of contract administration services to Ainley Group based on their quoted values submitted in their design and contract administration proposal. And just some background, the contract was publicly advertised and tendered, with one bid being received. Tenders were opened and evaluated by the city's purchasing manager, deputy treasurer, and the manager of operations. The Ainley Group reviewed and analyzed the bids and recommends award. The bid received from Bonashare Excavating, Inc. is $2,140,869.56. For information purposes, date of completion for the project is November 7th, 2025. Brief description of the scope of work. The project includes complete reconstruction of sanitary sewer, storm sewer, water infrastructure, as well as road, curb, and sidewalk construction to upgrade a portion of Moffett Street to an urban standard road. Right now it is not an urban standard road, for a total length of approximately 180 meters between Renfrew Street and Mary Street. This is phase 2 of a multi-phase project. Phase 1 was Moffett Street from Pembroke Street to Renfrew. And the project is aimed at improving Isabella Street catchment area storm infrastructure. That's the main focus. Alternatives that could be considered, as the tender has come in Within the project budget, we could potentially increase the project scope using the submitted unit rates that we would negotiate with the contractor. However, it's yet to be determined if that's practical. We would basically have to go back to the designer. We wouldn't be able to extend the project with the monies available to complete the next phase, all the way down Isabella Street towards Doran. We'd only get part way up. If we only get part way up, is it practical to do that? For one, the residents on Isabella Street are going to be inconvenienced this year through that construction, and again next year through phase 3. Can we get to a point, because we're adjusting storm sewer grades, we're adjusting sanitary sewer grades, we don't want to get to a situation where we've got sewer flowing and then we block it, because it has to go in the wrong direction, if you understand what I'm saying. We don't want it lower on one side than the new stuff we're putting in. So that would have to be looked at as well, as to whether or not it's practical. The other option or alternative that can be, the other thing I wanted to mention was a fall shutdown. Right now we're saying November 7th is the completion date. If we add another 1/3 of a block or half a block of road in there and water and sewer, we're not going to meet the normal shutdown, and we could be into winter months or colder months when we're trying to put paving and concrete down. So the other option is to just leave the budget the way it is, carry it forward into 2026, and put it towards the next phase of the project, because it is a multi-phased project. The strategic plan impact of the project is in keeping with the city's plans for infrastructure and facility renewal, with the replacement of our aging infrastructure. This is definitely aging infrastructure, and trying to limit the disruption to users. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Comments? Councillor Kale.
While I thoroughly respect trying not to inconvenience residents, if all of the engineering practicalities point out, is that the only downfall? All the others you mentioned seem to be practical engineering stuff well beyond my degrees, but in terms of the non-engineering stuff that I will leave to you, is the residential impact the only downfall from extending this year's project?
And time constraints. Whether or not it could actually be completed in time before shutdown. We don't want to end up with that type of work exposed to winter conditions. We don't want concrete and asphalt going down during winter conditions. So,
okay, I'll put that on you as also an engineering question. So yeah, I would favor that we get as much out of this contract as we could, if all of the practical engineering sides, I realize we might be inconveniencing those residents, but I would suspect that the way costs increase year after year, we could potentially be saving quite a bit of money if we can get things negotiated at the current rates, which I think is what you were suggesting.
So,
Go ahead.
through you, Mr. Chair, what I would suggest then is we award contract as it is now. Staff will go back to the contractor and the engineering company and see if we can find a practical opportunity to move forward and extend the scope without causing any grief, because the money's already in the budget. If acceptable, I won't come back to council with the extended scope. Between myself, the clerk, and the CAO, we can provide an information report and let council know what the result of that negotiation was.
Had a motion to move forward?
Yeah, I would move the motion as recommended, and then as an aside, my preference would be happy for you to do that extra step.
Moved by Councillor Keel. Do we have a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Purcell. Discussion. No discussion on the motion. You have your direction. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Next item, we have the Paul Martin Road Resurfacing Phase 1.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The recommendation is that Combined Committee endorse and recommend to Council approval of the following. Paul Martin Drive, River Road Resurfacing, Phase 1, From the city limits to Town Line Road, tender contract number 26-0697-01 be awarded to Bonashare Excavating Inc. in the amount of $1,091,905.08 plus HST, that being the lowest responsive and responsible bidder. And approval of additional expenditures in the amount of $50,000 for a contingency allowance. Total value of the recommendations equal $1,141,905.08 plus applicable HST. So as part of the 2025 capital budget, the city has allocated a budget of $195,025 for the city's portion of the Paul Martin Drive River Road resurfacing Phase 1. The provincial and municipal combined project costs as tendered, including contract administration, construction, additional expenditures, net HST is $1,266,227.67. So based on the funding agreement that we've already signed with the province, the city's portion of the works is $126,622.77. The remainder of the project for this year is funded under the provincial contribution. That comes out of the province's total maximum contribution of $3 million. And just a reminder, the above award includes contract administration services to Aegis Canada for contract admin and field admin. The contract was publicly advertised and tendered. It met all the requirements of the city's procurement policy. We had 5 bids that were received. Aegis Canada Limited reviewed and analyzed the bids, and the bids were received as follows. Bonashare Excavating Inc., $1,091,905.08. Thomas Cavanaugh Construction, $1,246,290.81. McCrae Excavating, $1,268,637. GIP Paving, $1,329,444. And Greenwood Paving at $1,372,349.07. For information purposes, completion date on this project is November 14th. With that being said, there is the possibility of supply shortages, supply difficulties in some of the bridge components, and we may have to look at separation of the two components of the work. Doing the resurfacing portion of the project, getting all that complete this year, and allowing for the expansion joint replacement to be done in the spring of next year. Very late in the tendering process, we did get notification from one of the contractors that they were concerned with supply. Works for this phase include the paving of from the city limits at the Irving Big Stop to the intersection of Town Line Road, along with the rehabilitation of the storm outfall that's on the west side of the Olympic Bridge, and the replacement of the bridge expansion joints I just mentioned. It's part of a larger resurfacing project and road rehabilitation project, a 3-phase project for the Highway 141-148 connecting link. That eventually will make its way up to the intersection of Metcalfe and McKay Street. We have received provincial funding for the project at 90% of the eligible cost to a maximum of $3 million. This is a provincially funded project, so if we don't award it, we could risk losing our funding, so no alternatives have been considered. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Corrections, suggestions, motions? Councillor Keel.
I did just hear your final comment, but wasn't this road just done like not that long ago?
Councillor Keel, you're testing my memory. It's
a pretty okay road.
It's in decent shape from Town Line. So this particular phase from Town Line out to the Irving Big Stop was reconstructed, I'm going to say 12 years ago. 10, maybe 10, somewhere thereabouts. There's a lot of truck traffic. If you've noticed on the curve, as you go in front of, I can never remember the new business that's there. KI is on one side. Norlock, thank you. Right at that curve, you'll see actual tearing of the asphalt from the truck traffic. So when asphalt tears, water infiltrates the asphalt and it blows apart. We're noting that a lot of that is starting to happen. So that's talking about that portion. The bridge didn't get expansion joints when that work was done 12 years ago. It's been noted in our OSUM reports that the expansion joints need to be done. You have to pave when you do expansion joints. Combining that, the storm sewer work, a good majority of the stormwater coming from Highway 17, Highway 141. This is a really good opportunity to get the province to help pay for that storm work. They won't otherwise. And then the remainder of River Road has not been touched in over 25 years. Asphalt generally lasts 15 to 17 years. So that's where we are. It's 90% funded, so we only have to come to the table with 10%.
And that's why I'm perfectly okay moving the motion. There are pensioners who have lived on streets their entire working life that still haven't been touched, and I just know somebody was going to come to me at some point and say, Paul Martin Drive was just done not that long ago. So I wanted the full explanation also so that I could properly relay it. But obviously this is a special case. This isn't us choosing whatever road we want to get done and the province funding it. This is the province funding this specifically because it's a connecting link highway, and that is why they're giving us the money. This would absolutely not be available for every other road in Pembroke that we do know needs to get done. And I just wanted to make sure that that part is fundamentally clear.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. That is correct, and this finishes off connecting link resurfacing from city limits at the Irving Big Stop of 41 to Highway 148, which is Pembroke Street East nearing Angus Campbell Drive. We had done several other phases of that project, so this finishes off that resurfacing to get the entire connecting link, which again is a reason why the province supported it.
So I would move for the recommendation.
Moved by Councillor Keel. We have a seconder, Councillor Purcell. Discussion? Councillor seconder, and then Councillor Fernier.
This is great news. I mean, it's always nice to be only paying like 10% of what it actually costs, so that's excellent. But that being said, is there going to be work done on the curb, like in terms of the ditching and those kinds of things? I think there's been pylon cones there. It's been there 18 years, but it's like this, as long as that road's been under construction. It seems like whenever there's any rains and those kinds of things, it washes the gravel out and end up with a pylon there. And so is there going to be more substantive work to be done to the ditches and ensuring that we don't have those issues moving forward?
Through you, Mr. Chair, and just so that we're clear, there are some pylons that are presently along the edge of road in the same spot that I'm sure you're referring to, Councillor Purcell, that are part of the ongoing construction at the Septage receiving station and the bulk water station. So there are some there. It happens to be the exact same location where there's a significant amount of water, potentially spring fed, that comes through in the spring of the year. So we are doing some ditching work and some drainage work. We're also going to try and transfer some of that water to the opposite side of Paul Martin Drive, transfer it over there so that if it continues to flow outside of the ditch, it's not going to flow onto the roadway, which is why we generally put those barrels there to help people understand they need to slow down. So we are addressing that drainage issue as part of this project.
Thank you. Councillor Fernier.
Thank you, through the chair. So I'm going back to the last election that I brought this to council. The curbs, making them accessible, and I think you'll recall I brought it up about like the corner of Ellis when you get down to River Road, the corner of Deacon when you get down the River Road. Not all the curbs are accessible. And I was talking to a woman the last election who said she can't walk along, like she can't walk on the sidewalk, she can't get up over that curb. So then you had said that once you're looking at redoing those roads, then you would look at making those curb cuts and making them like a flat, like for wheelchairs or people that are,
Go ahead.
having trouble So can you comment, please?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So this particular project is a resurfacing project. We're concentrating on the road itself and resurfacing the road. We are going to do some concrete curb work. We're going to do some sidewalk work. It's going to be very similar to what we did on Pembroke Street West and Pembroke Street East, where we're going to spot repair to try and reduce the budget requirements. But we are addressing AODA compliance at the intersections as part of this project. And we are addressing the unsignalized pedestrian crossing that comes from the park. I can never remember the name of the park, but that one that's on the corner of Town Line and River Road. The pathway meanders through the park and then crosses mid-block. So we are going to include a signalized pedestrian crossing there, similar to what we have at Fellows High School and at Angus Campbell Drive and Alfred Street East.
Mr. Keel?
Wonderful, thank you.
Quick question. I'm just thinking back to the road study that we just did and the suggestion that we connect Paul Martin Drive with Drive-In Road. Are we going to be wasting anything with this? Or, I mean, that also might not be for 20 years, but are there any considerations there, or is that kind of a future thing that just not discussing right now?
Through you, Mr. Chair, it's a future thing, but we are discussing it. We have been looking at it. We don't have a full design. We're not 100% sure what's going to come of that connection and how exactly that connection is going to be. We've looked at a couple options, and when I say that, we're looking at concept. So the concept is we can fit in that new connection without doing much more than making sure grade at that one particular location is right. And some storm sewer, some culvert work. If we end up in the future looking at a roundabout or something different for that connection, well, then that's a bit of a different story. But right now, what we've looked at is we think we're going to be okay and nothing is going to have to change dramatically at that corner. And just for information purposes, that design project is being tendered yet this fall for the design of that connecting.
No further questions. I'll call the question. Those in favor? Against? Carried unanimously. You have your direction. Next item, we have amendments to the 50 Senior Active Living Center. CA Unruh.
Thank you, Chair. So the recommendations are to approve the proposed amendments to the agreements, or to the agreement with the 50+ Senior Active Living Center, and direct staff to conduct a revision of the agreement between the City of Pembroke and the 50+ Senior Active Living Center. So the agreement was reviewed and approved through council, but there was some amendments when we sent it back to the senior group for their signature. It was basically a duplication of the previous agreement, and I made the mistake of processing it without consulting with them first. So once they did take a look at it, there was basically some administrative. So on the top of page 2, they just wanted to replace the existing paragraph with this new paragraph that better reflected what the programs and the operations of the senior center. And then also that on the bottom of page 2, just to reinforce the partnership and alignment with the City of Pembroke and the center. So a coordination between the City Parks and Recreation and the center in regards to programming. And then finally that the date be changed from January 1st, 2025 and concluding on December 31st, 2028. So open up to any questions.
Questions? It's basically information, Mr. Unruh?
Well, yes, but I'll need direction just to revise the agreement and send it out.
Councillor Lafreniere?
Yeah, I would move that we give direction to staff to proceed with the agreement.
Moved by Councillor Fernier, seconded by Councillor Kale. Further discussion? Seeing none, those in question, go ahead.
I know there's some discussions in regards to some clarifications in the lease as well. Was that accomplished as well?
I guess what clarification? So this was specifically dealing with the agreement. Where we've been talking as, on different items with them and stuff like that.
Okay, yeah, I just wanted to make sure that that was.
But we have a lot better relationship with them than we have had in the past.
Excellent, that's very good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Further? Seeing none, those in favor? Against? Carried. We need a motion to adjourn. Moved by Councillor Fernier, seconded by Councillor Purcell. Those in favor? We are adjourned. We'll take a 10-minute break and reconvene here at 8:45. Thank you. We are adjourned.
Welcome to our August 12th Pembroke City Council meeting. In the absence of Mayor Gervais and myself, who's zooming in virtually, a chair for the council meeting needs to be appointed. I am moving that we appoint Councillor Ed Jacquinot to serve as chair for this evening's council meeting, if I have a seconder. Seconded by Councillor Frenier. Any discussion? Those in favor? Carried. Thank you, Councillor Jacquinot, for taking the chair of tonight's council meeting.
And join us in a prayer or a silent reflection as we contemplate the business of the assembly that comes before us tonight. Thank you. Are there any disclosures, pecuniary interest, or general nature thereof? Councillor Keel?
I'll have one during closed session. Do we take care of that now, or do we take care of that in closed session?
We can do it in close and then report out.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. The minutes, approve the minutes from council, the regular meeting of council of July 15th, 2025. Need a mover, Councillor Frenier. Seconder. We have a seconder, Councillor Purcell, very good. Any errors or omissions? If not, those in favor? Carried, thank you. Adopt the minutes from committees of the combined committee of July 15th, 2025. We need a mover, Councillor Frenier. Councillor Keel. Errors or omissions? Seeing none. Those in favor? Carried. Receive minutes from local boards. The Pembroke Public Library Board of March 20th, 2025. Need a mover, the Deputy Mayor. Seconded by Councillor Purcell. Errors or omissions? Seeing none. Those in favor? Carried. Thank you. No delegations or presentations this evening? Okay, staff and committee report, business rising from delegations and presentations. Seeing none. Staff and committee reports, 7A Combined Committee, Isabella Street Catchment Area, number 2, Tender Award. Councillor Purcell.
Thank you, Chair. The Combined Committee of Council begs to report and recommend from its meeting held this evening, moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Keel, that tender number 2365-1, Isabella Catchment Area number 2, Moffat Street, Renfrew Street to Mary Street be awarded to Bonashare Excavating for an estimated contract value of $2,140,869.56 plus HST, and that any additional expenditures in the amount of $300,000 be approved for a contingency allowance, and that the total of the recommendations equal $2,440,869.56 plus applicable GST. Thank you.
Okay, good. Are you staying? Okay, very good. Your combined committees of council begs to report and recommend from its meeting held this evening as follows, moved by Councillor Purcell, seconded by Councillor Keel. I'm going to have to get used to your signatures. I'm sorry, I don't sit here usually. The tender number 2365-1, Isabella Catchment Area, number 2, Moffat Street to Renfrew Street to Mary Street, be awarded to Bonashare Excavating Incorporated for an estimated contract value of $2,140,869.56 plus HST, and that additional expenditures in the amount of $300,000 be approved for a contingency allowance, and the total value of the recommendations equaling $2,444,869.56 plus applicable HST. Those in favor? Against? Carried. Thank you. Next report, Combined Committee, Paul Martin Drive, River Road, resurfacing Phase 1. Councillor Purcell.
Thank you, Chair. The Combined Committee of Council begs to report and recommend from this meeting held this evening, moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Keel, tender number 260697-01, Paul Martin Drive, River Road resurfacing, Phase 1, city limits to Town Line Road, be awarded to Bonisher Excavating, Inc. for an estimated contract value of $1,091,905.08 plus HST, and that additional expenditures in the amount of $50,000 be approved for this contingency allowance, and the total value of the recommendations equal $1,141,905.08 plus applicable HST. Thank you.
The Combined Committee of Council begs to report and recommend. Yeah, sorry. Your Combined Committee of Council begs to report and recommend from this meeting this evening as follows. Moved by Councillor Purcell. Whoop. You got two signatures here. Councillor Keel's a seconder. Okay, sorry, Councillor Keel. That tender number 26-0697-01, Paul Martin Drive, River Road resurfacing, Phase 1, city limits to Town Line Road, be awarded to Bonisher Excavating Incorporated for an estimated contract value of $1,091,905.08 plus HST, and that additional expenditures in the amount of $50,000 be approved for contingency allowance, and that the total value of the recommendations equal $1,141,905.08 plus applicable HST. Councillor Purcell, any comments?
This was discussed earlier at the Combined Committee.
Thank you. Those in favor? Against? Carried. Thank you. No proclamations this evening. Bylaw 2025-64, Green Municipal Fund Grant Agreement. Or has that one been removed? That has been removed from previous discussion at our combined committee meetings. Be noted for the record. Motions. 10A, Resolution 2508-07, 2026 Water Systems Financial Plan. Councillor Lafreniere.
Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Ian Keel. Be it resolved that the Corporation of the City of Pembroke endorse the Water System Financial Plan, and be it further resolved that a copy of this resolution be sent to the Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing and the Ministry of the Environment, Conservation and Parks.
Thank you. Thank you. Resolution number 2508-07, moved by Councillor Pat Lafreniere and seconded by Councillor Keel. Be it resolved that the Corporation of the City of Pembroke endorse the Water System Financial Plan, and be it further resolved that a copy of this resolution be sent to the Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing under Ontario Regulation 453-07, Section 3, Subsection 1, Subsection 6, and that the Ministry of the Environment, Conservation and Parks, SDA, Section 32.5.2-II. Councillor Fernier.
This was discussed earlier. This is a requirement to get our licensing to supply water and sewer.
Questions
Thank
of the mover? Seeing none, those in favor? Against? Carried. Thank you. Next resolution, number 2508-08, Community Improvement Plan Application for 20 Pembroke Street West. Councillor Purcell.
Thank you, Chair. Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Keel. Be it resolved that the Corporation of the City of Pembroke approves the application for Luciana Mendez, tenant of 20 Pembroke Street West, for the Community Improvement Plan Downtown Heritage Facade Improvement Grant. The applicant must comply with the grant guidelines of the Downtown Heritage Facade Improvement Grant and will have 18 months to complete all the work and submit receipts in order to receive the grant. The grant total award for this application is $574.16. Thank you.
Resolution number 25-08-08, moved by Councillor Purcell and seconded by Councillor Keel. Be it resolved that the Corporation of the City of Pembroke approves the application from Luciana Mendez, tenant of 20 Pembroke Street West, for the Community Improvement Plan Downtown Heritage Facade Improvement Grant. The applicant must comply with grant guidelines of the Downtown Heritage Facade Improvement Grant and will have 18 months to complete all work and submit receipts in order to receive the grant. The grant total awarded to this applicant is $574.16. Councillor Purcell?
Discussed earlier. Thank you.
Thank you. Very important that we are supporting business. Those in favor? Against? Carried. Thank you. Next resolution, number 25-08-09, Community Improvement Plan Application for 143 Pembroke Street West. Councillor Lafreniere.
Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Ian Keel. Be it resolved that the Corporation of the City of Pembroke approves the application from Portia Strang, tenant to 143 Pembroke Street West, for the Community Improvement Plan Downtown Heritage Facade Improvement Grant. The applicant must comply with grant guidelines of the Downtown Heritage Facade Improvement Grant and will have 18 months to complete all work and submit receipts in order to receive the grant. The grant total awarded to this applicant is $694.20.
Thank you. Resolution number 2508-09, moved by Councillor Pat Lafreniere and seconded by Councillor Keel. Be it resolved that the Corporation of the City of Pembroke approves the application from Portia Strang, tenant of 143 Pembroke Street West, for the Community Improvement Plan Downtown Heritage Facade Improvement Grant. The applicant must comply with grant guidelines of the Downtown Heritage Facade Improvement Grant and will have 18 months to complete all work and submit receipts in order to receive this grant. The grant total awarded to this applicant is $694.20. Councillor Fernier?
Yeah, this was covered earlier.
Thank you. Questions of the mover? Seeing none, those in favor? Carried. Thank you. Next resolution, number 2508-10, Community Improvement Plan Application for 188 Prince Street. Councillor Purcell.
Thank you, Chair. Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Keel. Be it resolved that the Corporation of the City of Pembroke approves the application from Sleepwell Property Management, owner of 188 Prince Street, for the Community Improvement Plan Downtown Housing Grant. The applicant must comply with the grant guidelines of the Downtown Housing Grant and will have 18 months to complete all the work and submit receipts in order to receive the grant. The grant total award of this applicant is $10,000.
Okay. Resolution number 2508-10, moved by Councillor Purcell, seconded by Councillor Keel. Be it resolved that the corporation of the City of Pembroke approves the application from Sleepwell Property Management, owner of 188 Prince Street, for the Community Improvement Plan Downtown Housing Grant. The applicant must comply with grant guidelines of the Downtown Housing Grant and will have 18 months to complete all work and submit receipts in order to receive the grant. The grant total awarded to this applicant is $10,000. Councillor Purcell.
Thank you. Again, it's nice to see, businesses looking at taking up interest in regards to our CIP program and making enhancements to their facades. And in this case here, it'd be an apartment that was living up top of the business as well.
Thank you. Questions to the mover or comments? Seeing none? Those in favor? Against? Carried. Thank you. Next resolution, Councillor Lafreniere. Resolution number 28-08-1, Community Improvement Plan Application for 1044 Pembroke Street East.
Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Ian Keel. Be it resolved that the Corporation of the City of Pembroke approves the application from Faljuni Patel, owner of 1044 Pembroke Street East, for the Community Improvement Plan Facade Improvement Grant. The applicant must comply with grant guidelines of the Facade Improvement Grant and will have 18 months to complete all work and submit receipts in order to receive the grant. The grant total awarded to this applicant is $5,000.
Resolution number 2508-11, moved by Councillor Pat Lafreniere, seconded by Councillor Keel. Be it resolved that the Corporation of the City of Pembroke approves the application from Falguni Patel, I hope I pronounced that properly, owner of 1044 Pembroke Street East, for the Community Improvement Plan Facade Improvement Grant. The applicant must comply with grant guidelines for the Facade Improvement Grant and will have 18 months to complete all work and submit receipts in order to receive this grant. The grant total awarded to this applicant is $5,000. Councillor Fernier?
Yes, another uptake, and as we found out as we were hearing tonight, there's a lot of people interested, which is really nice. For a little while there was a bit of a lull, so keep it coming. Thank you.
Thank you. Next resolution, number 2508-12, Community Improvement Plan Application for 2527 Pembroke Street East. Oh.
Didn't vote on that one.
Okay, sorry, that one's gone?
No.
Oh, we didn't vote on this last one, sorry. Those in favor? Been a long night, excuse me. Okay, next one, resolution number 2508-12, Community Improvement Plan Application for 2527 Pembroke Street East. That's why we got a CAO to keep the councillors and the mayor in line.
Keeps us straight. Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Keel. Be it resolved that the Corporation of the City of Pembroke approves the application from Andrew and Kaylee Kuyak, owners of 25-27 Pembroke Street West, for the Community Improvement Plan Downtown Heritage Facade Improvement Grant. The applicant must comply with the grant guidelines of the Downtown Heritage Facade Improvement Grant and will have 18 months to complete all the work and submit receipts in order to receive the grant. The grant total award of this applicant is $5,000. Thank you.
Resolution number 2508-12, moved by Councillor Troy Purcell, seconded by Councillor Keel. Be it resolved that the Corporation of the City of Pembroke approves the application from Andrew and Kaylee Kuyak, owners of 25-27 Pembroke Street West, for the Community Improvement Plan Downtown Heritage Facade Improvement Grant. The applicant must comply with grant guidelines of the Downtown Heritage Facade Improvement Grant and will have 18 months to complete all work and submit receipts in order to receive the grant itself. The grant total awarded to this applicant is $5,000. Councillor Purcell?
Just Andrew and Kaylee are new business owners, and they're planning on the facade improvements and as well some center doors. It's been about 12 or 13 years since the facade has been looked at previously, so thank you.
Very good, thank you. Next, resolution 2508. Oh, sorry. Yeah, we got to vote on that, sorry. Councillor, Deputy Mayor, you're still with us, right? Those in favor? Against, thank you. Next resolution, number 2508-13, delegation of authority to Chief Administrative Officer. Councillor Purcell.
Thank you. Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Pat Laferniere, be it resolved that the Corporation City of Pembroke delegate authority to the Chief Administrative Officer to review and make decisions on community improvement plan applications received during the summer and Christmas periods when council is not in regular season. Thank you.
Yep. Resolution number 2508-13, moved by Councillor Purcell, seconded by Councillor Pat Laferniere. Be it resolved that the Corporation of the City of Pembroke delegate authority to the Chief Administrative Officer, known as the CAO, to review and make decisions on Community Improvement Plan CIP applications received during the summer and Christmas periods when council is not in regular session. Councillor Purcell.
Simply just so that we do not delay any of these CIP grants during the summer months when we don't meet very often, and during the Christmas period. So that way there's no delays in terms of the approvals. Thank you.
Councillor Keel, questions to the mover?
What does it mean to review the application? Does the committee still review the application, or does the CAO review the application?
The committee would still review. However, in those off periods where work can't be done per the CIP without getting the grant, like for example, there was a sign done because the business was opening. We weren't meeting. Work could not hold up because the business had to open. In that circumstance, the CAO would review the application based on the committee's recommendation.
We still meet once a month. It's not like we take the summer off.
Well, with the circumstance this evening with, I forget which business.
20 Pembroke Street West.
Yeah, the work was done ahead of time because it was the timing of committee or council meetings didn't align with their work and how they needed to get done. However, they still want to access the grant. So in that circumstance, the CAO would review based on committee's recommendation, so the work can proceed essentially.
But the whole project didn't happen in 2 weeks. Like, it was obviously submitted at a time that we then couldn't get to it. I guess I don't know why we're delegating this. I really don't. Do we also not meet twice in December?
We do. However, in future meeting schedules, we could go to one. We could have weeks where we don't meet based on how the weeks fall within the month. Some months have longer weeks than others. It's up to council's prerogative to amend or accept as it's presented. It was a recommendation that was put forward.
I don't think it's necessary. I don't think it's even written very clearly in terms of the powers that we're delegating. I'm not supporting it.
Any other discussions on the mover? Seeing none, I'll call the question. Those in favor? Those against? It is carried 4-1. Thank you. Nothing under correspondence? Anything to report from the CAO or the clerk? No. Mayor's Way, notices of motions. Any? Seeing none. Councillor updates. Councillor Fernier.
Yes, last Friday night, I was joined by Councillor Purcell, Councillor Keel, Deputy Mayor, the Mayor, and many other representatives. Cheryl Gallant was there. And this was a celebratory event that I was so happy. I actually missed the invitation in my email, but thanks to Councillor Keel, he texted me and said, "Are you going tonight?" So thank you so much for reminding me. And what it was the first pitch at the renovated ball diamond, and it was thanks to the Blue Jays Field of Dreams grant. And without the hard work of Amanda Williamson and the many, many volunteers of Upper Ottawa Valley Little League, we would not have gotten that grant, and I believe it was $80,000. And the diamond looks amazing. It was quite an evening, I have to say. It was quite emotional, and with all the youth there, all the teams, they were having a tournament. I don't know, I'd beg to say there was probably 600 to 1,000 people in Riverside Park. And they did a flyover, military flyover. I mean, it was a wonderful evening. And I just, again, without those volunteers and our Parks and Recreation staff who worked so hard, and they were so proud. It was really a proud moment. And Dave, you were there, Mr. Unruh? Yeah. So I just want to say thank you to everyone who had their hands in it. And we can be very proud of that diamond specifically. And, oh yes, I'm not done. I was so emotional about that. My first time at the Friday night market, down at the farmer's market, because I spent the weekend in town, which I don't always do. I'm out at Golden Lake. But it's amazing. So I'm really hoping that continues. It was great. There was lots of great vendors, different things to look at and purchase. You could sit down and have a beverage, and I truly enjoyed it. So I encourage anyone who hasn't gone, you would be pleasantly surprised. Of course, Deputy Mayor and his lovely wife were there. I think they're always there. So, and my final comment is one of our neighboring municipalities this weekend is hosting the powwow at the Pikwakanagan Reserve. Saturday morning, I guess the grand entry is at 11 a.m. and you'll find me there with my granddaughter who dances in her jingle dress. So that's another event happening in the valley. So thank you. That's it.
Thank you. Other members of council reports? Deputy Mayor?
Thank you, Councillor Giacono. Next weekend is the second annual Ottawa Valley Busker Fest. Friday night, the amphitheater, starting at 5 till 10. Many activities, and the highlight of the evening is going to be a new drone show. So we're hoping for an excellent crowd for that and great weather. Saturday, downtown will be closed off, and from 11 till 6 will be a Busker Fest. Different activities like last year was a phenomenal introduction. We want to thank the committee. We want to thank all the sponsors, all the volunteers. Councillor Purcell and I are both helping out with a hot barbecue on the Friday night. So if anybody else wants to show up and flip some hot dogs, you're welcome. And it's going to be a great event. Yes, the night markets are great, and also the farmers market every Wednesday and Saturday. So lots of things going on in Pembroke, and we're looking forward to the Busker Fest next weekend. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Any further reports? If not, we'll need a motion to move into closed. Councillor Lafreniere.
Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Troy Purcell, that this meeting become a closed meeting to discuss proposed or pending acquisition or disposition of lands by the municipality as per Section 239(2)C of the Municipal Act regarding Trans-Can Corporate Park.
Thank you. Motion for council to move into a caucus meeting on August 12, 2005, moved by Councillor Fernier, seconded by Councillor Purcell, that this meeting become a closed meeting to discuss proposed or pending acquisition or disposition of lands by the municipality as per Section 239, subsection 2-C of the Municipal Act regarding a Trans-Canada Corporate Park. Those in favor? Against? Carried. We will now move into caucus.